Hi, my name is Alexander Ziri. I'm the head of product here at London Real, and I would like to welcome you to tonight's masterclass, Turn Your Podcast into a Six-Figure Business. These past couple of weeks, we've been sending you some emails on how to get started with your podcast. You've gotten some IP from us on how to find your podcast idea, how to book influencers, and how to use podcasting as a tool to find your passion and purpose in life. And tonight, we're going to take all of that and show you how to transform it into a business. We're going to show you how to take your podcast listeners and turn them into paying customers so you can do full-time what you love doing, which is podcasting. First of all, I'd like to ask you, download the workbook. You'll see a link right above your chat. Like that, you can follow the whole masterclass through. And let me introduce you to tonight's host, the man of the evening. He is the founder of London Real, a personal project that has grown into a highly respected media company where he interviews the most fascinating people on the planet, bring out their truth, and share it with an audience who want to build a better version of themselves. He has had over 500 amazing guests on the show, including Ido Portal, Jocko Willing, Dan Pena, Dorian Yates, Jordan Peterson, Tim Ferriss, Graham Hancock, Gary Vee, Alex Icahn, Simon Sinek, and today Elliot Hulse came in, so that was pretty cool. What was first an idea has now grown into a global phenomenon that has impacted millions of people. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you the one and only Mr. Brian Rose.
As usual, Mr. Ziri, an excellent introduction.
Thank you.
You know, you're always here because you always remind me about all of these guests that we had in the past. And what I do is I go back to my brain to the first time I met Elliot Hulse. That was 3.5 years ago. I go back in my mind to the first time I met Dorian Yates. That was almost 6 years ago. And I can see how I grew and the business grew based on all of these guests. And some guests that come by today, they wouldn't have even talked to me when I started out. But then, because I use the systems I'm going to be teaching tonight, we got better and better guests. And it's just really blossomed into this thing that's just really hard to explain. So thank you so much for introducing me. I'm pumped to talk about this tonight because most people don't think starting a podcast and thinking about a business goes together. But I'm going to explain why they have to go together or there is no podcast. So that's what I'm going to drop on people tonight. Thank you so much for the introduction.
My pleasure, and have a good evening.
All right, it will be good. And there he is, Mr. Ziri, our head of product. Tonight, folks, I want to teach you how to turn your podcast into a six-figure business. I'm Brian Rose. We're live here at London Real World headquarters, and I'm just excited to be here talking about this product, this idea, really, because the reason why 99% of all podcasts fail is what I'm going to be talking about tonight. Nobody talks about it, but I'm going to explain it to you. And a lot of you are thinking, Brian, I really want to know how to actually start my podcast, how to book guests, how to interview people. But the truth is if you don't understand the business, you'll never actually have a successful podcast. And so tonight, we're going to reverse engineer it for you, which will guarantee that you're going to be sustainable. I've been here for 7 years in this business. I've spoken to over 500 people on this show. We have reached 100 million people around the planet. I've actually watched an episode of London Real, and that's because we turn this into a business, and I want to share that with you tonight. But first, I just want to tell you what my last 2 weeks were like. This is what happened here at London Real Studios. I had a 4-star general come in here, General Stanley McChrystal. This guy was responsible for capturing Saddam Hussein. He was right here. Next, I had Ross Edgley, who just completed the Great British Swim. 157 days at sea. He swam 12 hours per day. He landed here in England on dry land the first time in almost 6 months. The next day, he came to London Real Studios to talk to me. But it gets even better. Today, I had Elliot Hulse, the strength coach, who years ago was an idol to me. He came by for the second time and spoke to me all about his life. Then I had Dr. Gabor Mate, a specialist in addiction and trauma. And of course, just weeks ago, I had the 6-time Mr. Olympia, Dorian Yates. These are some of the things that have happened because I've started the podcast, but it gets even better. About a week and a half ago, I was flown to the United States to do an interview with Robert Kiyosaki, who's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. and that's the #1 personal finance book of all time. You've probably read it, you've probably heard of him. I got a chance to go there and speak with him for 2 hours. It was absolutely incredible. He was talking about his transformation as a kid, living in Hawaii, going to the Vietnam War as a Marine pilot, crashing his helicopter into the ocean. He was telling me everything. They flew me out to do that because I started my own podcast. So that's why I think this is one of the most incredible things to do. And that's why I want you to pay attention to everything I'm saying tonight, because if you can learn how to turn it into a business, you will be successful. And I want to talk about that later. But to be honest, it's not just having access to these super cool people. It's the fact that I'm really making an impact on this world. And if you think about it, 1 in 70 humans on Earth is 100 million people. I plan on making that 1 billion people in the next few years, and then going to 2 billion and 3 billion. Before I die, my goal is that everyone on this earth will have heard of London Real and had their life changed by our messages. That's the kind of thing you can do if you start a podcast. But finally, there's even more, because I do this every single day as my job. It's my business. I no longer have to go to a job I hate. I no longer have to work for a boss who tells me things to do that I don't understand. Now I get to live my passion every single day. I get to go in directions. I get to graduate students from my academy and just make an impact on humanity. This all happened because I started my own podcast and because I turned it into a business, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But before we get started, I want to hear from you, because this is interactive tonight, all right? I want you to go ahead and type in the chat right now. Tell me what city you're from. And we've got people from probably 5 or 6 continents on the globe tonight. And I want you to tell me, what's your podcast idea? What do you think? And again, there's no right answers here. Just type in what you think you want to talk about, who you want to have on the show. Just type in your idea, because I'm going to be going to these chats very, very shortly. And before we get started, I want you to eliminate all distractions. So take your mobile phone out, these things, and I want you to go, I'm going to go onto airplane mode, and I'm going to put this so I'm not distracted. There it is on airplane mode. I want you to take all of those web browsers you have on your desktop, and I want you to close down Facebook, close down YouTube. I know you've been watching that episode of London Real. I want you to close down all those other websites, and Lord knows what else you've been watching. It's none of my business. Shut it down. Tell the wife, the kids, the husband, your friends, your roommates that you're going to be hanging out with Brian Rose for the next 45 minutes. Throw the dog out, throw the cat out. I need you to be focused, because we're going to do something today that could literally change the course of your life. If you would have told me 7 years ago that by starting my own podcast would have changed my life, been responsible for the birth of my 2 sons, got me to meet people like Robert Kiyosaki, make documentary films, I would have told you you were crazy, but it's all true. So pay attention, because the next 45 minutes of your life could literally change the course of your life. So this is important, all right? I've just put a bonus in the chat. It's our downloadable show-up bonus. It's James Altucher, Success Secrets. Again, James Altucher is an incredible author who changed his life through podcasting, and he told me on the show that it's literally altered the course of who he's in contact with. It's jacked his business up by a massive level, and it's changed everything. So that's your downloadable bonus. Don't watch it now, watch it later. And I've got a second bonus I'm going to give you tonight. It's a fast action bonus, and it's going to come right at the end of this masterclass. So why are we here? Well, you've come here to learn how to turn your podcast into a profitable business. But here's the secret. You don't have to have a podcast yet. I want you to engineer the business into the podcast, which will make it massively successful, which means you won't quit, which means your life will really be transformed. And that's the biggest mistake that 99% of all podcasts make, is they don't have a business woven into it, which is why they quit. So many people I've met on the streets, oh, I started a podcast. How many episodes? 2, 3, 4. What happened? Oh, I got too busy. They got too busy because there was no revenue model and it didn't make sense to make it happen. That's what I want to teach tonight, and that is the ultimate game changer. So that's what we've been doing. You might be familiar with some of my training videos I put out in the last 2 weeks. If you've watched one of my videos or downloaded one of my workbooks or came into our free Facebook group, could you type yes in the chat right now? I want to know how many people. And type no if you have no idea what I'm talking about. But it was 3 training videos. The first one was finding your purpose and your passion. And the truth is that your passions are constantly changing. When I first started podcasting, I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This year, I've fallen in love with veganism and Ironman triathlons. They're constantly changing, and a podcast gives you a chance to pursue your passion as it changes. Really, really important. The second video, I talked about how to make deep connections and how to book incredible guests. I show you why now is the best time on earth to start podcasting and why in 3 years from now or 2 years from now or even in 12 months it might be too late. Because right now there's over 2 million podcasts on iTunes. That's probably going to go up to 4 million very shortly. And pretty soon, a lot of these ideas are going to be taken. You want to put your mark in the sand and get a beachhead that you can work from. That's why now is very important. Next, I talked about how just being interested in your guest can make you interesting, very, very importantly. And finally, how having a great mission can get you great guests on the show. You don't need a big social following. You don't need a lot of downloads. You just need to have a core mission that means something. That's why a lot of my guests come, because they believe in what London Real is all about. And finally, my third video, I showed you how to impact thousands and find your tribe. I showed you how to create content that attracts high quality listeners. And that's what I teach inside my academy, how to create content that really stands out from everyone else. So that's what we're going to cover today. But first, a little bit about my personal story. I used to be just like you. I was working in a job in banking, doing a job that I didn't really like. It paid the bills. I had gone to college for it. I didn't really enjoy going to work, but I did it so I could have money, so then I could try to live my life some way else. But finally, I realized it wasn't making me happy, and I went in and I quit my job and I started doing something I was passionate about. I started podcasting, and my life totally changed. I met people like Tim Ferriss and Dorian Yates. I started becoming a better person. I became a father, and everything was going amazing. But after 3 years, I literally almost burned out. I almost quit London Real because I hadn't figured out how to turn it into a business. And the truth is you can only do something so long as just a passion. At some point, it has to have a revenue stream to make sense, and that's what I did. And once I made that realization, and once I turned it into a business, everything changed. I got better guests. I got a team here at London Real. I started making movies, and now we've touched the lives of 100 million people from around the world. I've had people like Ido Portal in here, who's the movement coach for Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter. I've had Dan Pena in here, the $50 billion man. Jordan Peterson, the author of 12 Rules for Life, and even Run DMC was here. All of my idols and legends are now here, but also I'm living it every day as my business, and that's what I want to teach you to do tonight. I've taken my passion and turned it into a 7-figure business, but more importantly, I'm happier, I'm more connected, and I'm a more fulfilled person. And at night, I get to go home, and this is what my family sees. They see someone who's living their passion, who's happy to be alive, who feels connected, and feels like he's really making a difference in the world. And that really is the essence of why you want a podcast. And so tonight, I want to teach you 3 simple things. I'm going to go fast. I need you to take action. I need you to pay attention and type your responses into the chat, because this is valuable stuff. I'm live. This is one time only, so be here for that. First, I want to show you how to turn your listeners into a customer who's going to stay with you for life. Very, very important, because otherwise you're not going to have a podcast that means anything. Next, I want to show you 6 different ways to make income from your podcast. Again, if it has income, you won't quit when most people just get frustrated. And finally, I'm going to teach you the podcasting revenue roadmap. I'm going to show you how to have different products at different price points so you can really turn this thing into a sustainable business. Really, really important. And I want you to do this. Put this date in your calendar, November 27th. That is when my full online podcasting training starts. So go ahead and put that calendar right now. Put that in your calendar right now. Before we go right now, and I want to find out where you're from and what's your podcast idea, I want you to do me a favor, all right? So do me a favor right now. I want you to close your eyes, all right? And through this webinar and Masterclass software, I can actually see you. So close your eyes. Do me a favor. Close your eyes and do this for me. Visualize yourself on May 11th of next year, 2019. And I want you to visualize yourself as a podcaster, all right? You've got 25 episodes under your belt. You have had guests on your show that you used to look up to as a kid, authors that you've had their New York Times best-selling book on your dresser at night. I want you to visualize movie stars, billionaires, CEOs of companies, all of these types of people that have been on your podcast. And I also want you to see that it's become a business, one that's brought in 6 figures of revenue. You've just made your first $100,000. Maybe you've quit your job. Maybe you're traveling to different places around the world and hooking up with guests in California and guests in London and guests in Tokyo and South Africa. You're thinking about the relationships that have changed. Maybe your physical body has changed, your energy has changed, and you're like, wow, I can't believe I'm actually doing this as a dream and I've turned it into a business that will change my life. How is your day different? How is your energy different? How are your relationships different? Are you doing JV partnerships with these people? Are you launching businesses with them? Are you being flown to places all around the world to do podcasts with these people? That's what I want you to visualize what you're doing in May. All right, and I want you to open your eyes. And I want you to realize that that is possible. You can make it happen in the next 6 months if you pay attention to what I'm saying tonight. So let's turn your dream into a reality. And so I'd like to now go and speak to Mr. Julian Bales, our head of strategy here at London Real. And I feel like I was just here talking to Julian, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago on another live masterclass. Julian, you've been here from the beginning. You've seen this happen in 7 years. You've seen what's happened with podcasting, how it's changed my life. It's changed your life a little bit too. What do you think of all that when you think about what we've done?
It's pretty incredible, really, as you just started having conversations with people in your old apartment and what that's grown to here. It's transformational.
I know, and all I did was literally, I set up a microphone and I pulled the trigger and I had some confidence in it, and we literally started podcasting. And it was when we finally turned it into a business after you came on full time that really the freedom started flowing, right? That's when we started doing big things.
Yeah, that was important.
And so often I see people that start podcasts and they quit, and I think it's because they don't have the business engineered into it. And so tonight, that's what I want to talk about and really show people how they can get to 6 figures. You've seen how we do it. You've seen the mistakes we made, and we've made plenty of them, but now we know how to do it and we're going to teach it. So tell me, who's with us tonight? I bet we have an amazing group of people. Where are they from? What are their podcast ideas?
Let's start with Jorge. He says his comments aren't showing. They are. We can see them. We're live here.
We got you, Jorge.
We have Jan in Brussels, Delissa in Cyprus, Justin in Winnipeg, Neville Johnson in New Zealand, Francisco in Dallas, Texas, Istvan in Budapest, Kirk in Trinidad and Tobago, and Anthony in Sydney.
Wow, look at that, incredible. And I'd like to say I was surprised. And by the way, in Sydney and New Zealand, it's in the wee hours of the morning there, right? And so I was about to say I'm surprised, but inside the London Real Academy, where we do a lot of live classes for our accelerator products, we constantly have people in 12, 14 different time zones. So the actual, the audience for London Real is global. And that's true about a podcast that you start, and that's true about your business. You can really supply value to people all around the world. So we got people in Europe, in Australia, New Zealand, America, South America, the whole nine.
Yeah. One of those people is watching right now. We've got Lisa Ellis. She says, Brian, you know what my podcast is going to be about. It's about female leaders in the corporate world and looking to stop female bullying.
Yeah, Lisa is an amazing student. She's in our Business Accelerator, and she found this excellent, what I call a micro niche. And if you get into my accelerators, you know what I'm talking about, where she found this really interesting piece about corporate bullying by women. And how it affects women. And it's a really fascinating idea. She's got a whole business around solving the problems, and now she's joining our podcasting course to start talking about that. This is an incredible way to get CEOs on your platform, to get the message out, to grow your audience, and she's going to turn this into a business while she's developing her podcast. Lisa, you're a prime example of doing these together. And a lot of people think, I'll do the podcast first, Brian, and then I'll make it into a business. Trust me, I tried that. It's one of the biggest mistakes you can make. The only reason we made it through is through sheer will and total doggedness. And so for most people, if you think about it before, it's a better way of doing it, and that's why Lisa's doing it. So it's great to have you here, Lisa. Other people and other ideas.
John McBride in Randburg, South Africa says, I want to talk about innovative strategies for learning.
Okay, innovative strategies for learning. I like this a lot, and you'll see me talk about this inside our course and inside of our business. Again, I like that idea. I would love it if you said for high school students, for single mothers, for senior citizens. The more specialized you go, the easier it is to make a business out of it, because you can create a product that will serve those people. So again, I like to go micro. Lisa knows this, and I'll be talking about this more through tonight's training.
Prince from Nashville says, I already have a YouTube channel about Star Wars. I'd like to start a podcast to complement the channel.
Okay, cool. First of all, if your name is Prince and you're from Nashville, I already want to hang out with you. So that's super cool. I like that. The Star Wars podcast sounds really interesting to me. I like that a lot. But again, that's a podcast that you could never find a business for unless you really think about it. That's also an idea that most people would say there's no way you can turn that into a business, which is definitely not true. So tonight, we'll get you to focus on who your core audience is, what the problems they have, and how we can turn that into a revenue-generating business. As a YouTuber, you will know more than anyone that there's not a lot of money to be made on the YouTube platform. That's the big mistake people make. They expect to get paid from YouTube, from some advertisers, and they usually just die this really painful death. It's like a slow death by torture that podcasters go through. Tonight, I'm gonna show you how really to get to that 6 figures in revenue. Once you make that first 100,000, you know you have something special, and that's why I push my students to get there as fast as possible. I'm talking about 2 months, 3 months, 4 months to hit that $100,000 mark.
Beatrice says, I am a foreign language teacher. I want to tell the world that learning English and other languages is possible, and I want to add podcasting as one more tool.
Okay, great. I love this. You know, it's so true. We have many of our students inside the academy that have English as a second language. The most common thing we hear is, my English isn't good enough. It's really not true, but a lot of people put the block for learning more English right in front of them and they never get started. So I love this idea. Let's get it out there. Again, I'll say to you, it's like a broken record inside my academy, go more micro. So let's talk about, say, German people that are learning English as a second language in Germany. They're going to have specific wants, specific desires, or again, maybe it's high school students, maybe it's senior citizens. Let's find a real specific, or for business, a specific group. That'll make it easier to do a business and easier to find a real audience. So is that a good cross-section of what people are doing?
Certainly is.
Okay, cool. Mr. Bales, I'm going to get started, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, folks, look, this stuff's going to come super fast, and I want you to really pay attention because this will literally change the course of your life, the success of your podcast, if we can really think about the business right now, all right? So again, open your mind right now to the business side of your podcast. And we visualized earlier, May of next year, you having that first $100,000 in your bank. That's going to give you a sustainable podcast that can literally change the world. So I want to start with this amazing slide, and it's a quote by Mr. Peter Drucker. And he says this, the purpose of a business is to create a customer. Let me repeat that one more time. The purpose of a business is to create a customer. And that's the way I like to think about podcasting, is you're literally creating a customer. And a customer is someone who's getting something of real value from you, something they will ultimately pay for. If you're really doing this with your podcast and your business, you can grow your audience into something that really happens. And the biggest mistake I see so many people happening these days, and probably Prince from Nashville knows this as well, is that you see people building big following numbers. Look at my number of followers on Instagram. Look at my YouTube subscribers. You look at my likes on Facebook. And I always say to them, okay, but where's the business? Because I've been down to YouTube headquarters so many times, and I know people that have YouTube channels with 10 times the number of subscribers that I do, and they still live at their mom's house because they've never turned this into a value-creating entity, which means it never becomes more than a one-man or a one-woman show, and oftentimes they end up quitting and going back to their whatever job that they had. So I want to really think about this as something that's going to deliver real value to people. And so think about it as actually creating a customer. A customer is willing to pay you money for value that you give to them. And if we can think about that as some of your audience right now, don't just create a listener, but create someone that wants to pay you for your ideas and your content, we can really build something that has sustainability. That's why London Real is where it is today, because we have real products and it satisfies real needs and gives value to our customers. And so again, don't go for reach, don't go for followers or likes or any of this stuff. Really think about revenues. If you can build that in, then you have a podcast and a business that is sustainable. So let me go to my drawing here, and I want to talk about a concept called your audience funnel. And again, if you can really understand this when it comes to your podcast, you're going to be a really long, long way. All right, so let's talk about this. And this is what I like to call your funnel. And I'll talk about exactly what this is very shortly. All right, and the funnel looks a bit like a funnel, as we might expect. And it goes something like this. Your funnel starts with your podcast audience, all right? These are all the people that are going to download and listen to your podcast. It's all the people that like the message that you're talking about, all right? That is one level of all the people that you're going to touch with your media that you're giving out there for free. The next part of the funnel that you're probably not even thinking of already if you haven't started your podcast is the website. Very important that there's a website involved, and I'll explain why later. After that, we go further to email. And finally, I go to something called sales. And this is where the business aspect comes in. This is your audience funnel. Very, very important to consider it that way. And the next thing I want to talk about when it comes to audience is this. So again, most people, when they go to start a podcast, they just think about this podcast audience here, of all the people that are going to listen to it. They never think about, why do I need a website, why do I need email, and why do I need sales? If you can think about this right now, we can engineer the business, which is going to show you the success of what you're about to do. Now, when it comes to podcasting, I like to think of these 4 letters. Very, very important. It's Q, V, C, and A. Every single broadcast that you do has to have these 4 letters. Now, what do they stand for? First of all, the Q stands for quality. Everything you put out there should be of high quality, right? You should have thought about the questions. You should have gotten great guests on the show. You should make sure it sounds good, make sure it adds value every minute of the way. Very, very important with anything you do. Make sure it's quality. The next thing, it needs to have value. You can't just tell me about what you had for breakfast. You can't just tell me about what's going on in your day and tell me your problems. Put out something for your podcast audience that adds value to their life. How can I be a better person? How can I lift more weight? How can I be a high performance person? How can I move my body? How can I learn how to start my own podcast that's a business? Everything has to have value. The next thing is C, stands for consistency. Make sure you have a regular schedule that you reach your podcast audience with. Again, every week, every 2 weeks. At London Real, I made a pledge 7 years ago that I would publish every single week, and we have not failed. That builds up your audience. Very, very important. And finally, authenticity. Very important that you make everything authentic. Be who you are and be all you can be. Talk about your problems, your success, your struggles, and your failures. If you keep up the QVCA rule, you will build a podcast audience that will follow you week after week and be very interested in what you're doing. All right, so that's the first step of the funnel, is building that podcast audience. All right, but we can't stop there. That's where a lot of beginning podcasters stop. They don't think about what comes next. And that's really, really important, because what comes next is the website. Now, why do we need a website? You said, Brian, I don't need a website. I'm going to go ahead and put this on YouTube and iTunes. I'm going to help people's lives, and that's it. But the truth is if you don't have a website, you're never going to have a customer, you're never going to have revenues, and this thing will not continue. So the importance to take that audience and bounce them back to the website. The website is where we're going to collect the email address, which is where we're then going to start our sales conversation. And this is the biggest mistake people make. They try to go on social media platforms and they try to sell things and offer products. The truth is, you need to bounce people from your podcast back to your website to collect that email address. And the way we do that, and the way I teach this inside my courses, is we use something called a lead magnet. And this is something you can mention during your podcast that's a value add to your users. It could be, here's my 3-part guide on how to choose your best organic coffee. Here's my 3-part guide on how to learn English better. Here's my 3-part guide about everything you don't know about Star Wars, for some of the examples here. And on your website is where you collect the email address and you give them that value. And here is an example of one of our lead magnets. It's called the Podcast Launch Guide. And here on our website is where we give you this downloadable document, and in that we exchange it for your email address. Now, Brian, why are you talking about emails here? I was talking about doing podcasting and broadcasting. The truth is the email is the start of all of your customer interactions and experiences, because an email is something you have for life. When was the last time you changed your email address? For me, it was 15 years ago. So this email is something that you have for life, and it's not dependent on Facebook changes, YouTube changes, all of the different changes that can happen out there. Also, email is the perfect thing to start a customer relationship with. You can have a dialogue, you can tell a story, you can introduce a product and sell something. Nobody wants to buy a product when you sell it to them on your podcast, and no one wants to buy a product when you're trying to sell it to them on your website or on social media. That's why email is crucial. So you always want to make sure you get that email address from the beginning. And finally, that email is used to finally sell something. And in my next part, I'm going to be talking about all the different things you can sell. I'm going to talk about affiliates. I'm going to talk about membership sites. I'm going to talk about advertising. I'm going to talk about masterclasses. But it all happens by having that email address. You can't do it through podcasting alone. And so if you can understand this process, you are going to be that much further ahead when it comes to podcasting. Because when you design that podcast, you can think from the very beginning, okay, Brian, I'm going to create quality content. From there, I'm going to have a website ready to be set up to where I can talk about how people can come to my website and get what I call a lead magnet, which is something that you can offer of value. From there, you're going to collect an email address and you're going to start emailing people to have a conversation and to build up a relationship where you can offer them an affiliate program. You can offer them a sponsorship. You can offer them a community site or some type of revenue generating opportunity. And so if you really think about this from the beginning, you can weave into your podcast all of these elements of the lead magnet, of collecting the email address, and delivering quality content, value content, consistency, and authenticity. So I know a lot of this might be a lot of information for you right now, but let's make it really simple. Let's talk about the lead magnet that you're going to offer on your website to your customers. And some of the examples I like to give to people are how you would teach them something. So again, for the English language teacher, it could be how to avoid the 3 biggest mistakes of learning English as a second language. For Star Wars, it could say the 3 biggest questions that people ask about the origination of Star Wars, and get my downloadable PDF. It could be how to teach people how to get into ketosis. It could teach people the 3 basic parts of movement. But I want you to type in the chat right now, what would be your lead magnet, which again is a downloadable piece of a how to do 3 things in your podcast idea realm. And again, it really could be anything. For Elliot Holst, it could be the 3 things when it comes to strength improvements. For Ross Edgley, it could be the 3 things you need to know about swimming long distance. For Dan Pena, it could be the 3 things you need to know about high performance. But go ahead and type that right now in the chat. If you can identify what I call that lead magnet on very early on, it will change the whole course of your podcast. So again, I want you to type that in right now. And while you do that, I want you to listen to one of my students. His name is Mike Baker, but he makes us all call him Awesome Mike Baker. And he has been through my broadcasting course. And here is him talking about why he wanted to embrace podcasting and how the process of generating that entire podcast was actually for him, the whole process of what it was like. So here is Awesome Mike Baker.
Internet broadcasting is the next way to reach more people. So to have the biggest impact, to stand out from my quote unquote competitors, I wanted to embrace this avenue or this media, and no one to do it better than to join forces with you. Kudos to you, because you have this step by step. It's not, hey, you could do this or you could try this. No, it's do this, do it by Friday, or you don't get the gold medal. And if you don't get the gold medal, you've let your teammates down, which I can't do. So that caused me to have to gut it out and not procrastinate anymore, to actually do the thing, not think about yet another thing I could do. That's why that accountability doc works so well. And that was the environment to jump into that has made all the difference. So the Broadcast Yourself community is a special one. I have left my pack to join a new pack, and they are here. They are broadcasters from different industries, from different geographic locations around the globe, Sydney, Australia, obviously the UK, the States. So I've left my pack and I'm pushing myself now, I'm challenging myself. It's so exciting. It's such a gift that you've given me and all these people with this program to be able to make those connections, to be able to actually reach people that want to hear our stuff and trying to force it on people that we think should hear it. It's tremendous, it's priceless.
I'll never forget when Awesome Mike Baker actually bought the Broadcast Yourself course. He was following me, I think, on a Zoom call or a Masterclass, and he pulled his car over and he pulled out his American Express Platinum card and he typed it in, and then once it was through, he got back on the road. And again, Mike did an incredible job of building this podcast and building his business into the podcast. And he did it because he started off with this mentality in mind, as in, how can I turn my listener into a customer first on episode 1? So already be thinking about what they want in their life, give them that lead magnet, which is that downloadable guide, get the email address from day 1 so you can start that sales relationship and that customer relationship with them. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. And if you do this one simple piece, you can build a business around of it. If you don't, you're going to struggle for so much time. And I want to go to Julian now and talk to him about what I'm hearing from you with lead magnets. But Julian, you'll remember that in those first 3 years, we didn't have an email list, did we?
Nope.
It was crazy. We used to upload it to iTunes and to YouTube. And what did we do? We had advertisers, but we had no email addresses, so we could never really get through the threshold of making money. And it wasn't until we had email addresses that we made our first 100,000, first million, etc. Right? So again, the reason we can teach this is because we made the mistakes. And we saw how successful it can be if you just get that email address. And I remember we had some resistance, inside the team at first because we were demanding email addresses from people, but that made all the difference, right?
Yeah. The number one thing we would change if we could go back.
Is get emails sooner,
From
right?
day one, yeah.
We literally probably could have had the world headquarters 3 years earlier if we had just asked for an email. And that's why we stress this so much. So, all right, lead magnets. I'm curious what people think. Julian, part of me felt like maybe I went in too deep there, because people are like, Brian, I want to start a podcast. Are they understanding this concept of a lead magnet? Again, it's just a little piece of value and knowledge that they can give to their listener in exchange for an email address. What are people saying?
Yeah, super smart group tonight. Everyone's jumped on this. Rachel says 3 mistakes every female architect should avoid when starting their business.
Perfect. Now you really got what I'm talking about when it comes to micro niche. Again, you didn't say architect, you didn't see female, you said female architect. So again, it goes right into a specific group of people. It makes me interested to see what's in that lead magnet. So if you said that during your podcast, I've got this downloadable workbook or a downloadable PDF guide. It's free. Come to my website. You would get my email address. And again, from there you can say, hi, this is my name, this is my thoughts, and you can start that relationship. So that's perfect. Again, don't overthink this. It can be literally a one-page document that gives people some insight. It doesn't have to be an ebook. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking stuff. It can just be some information that you know that they don't know.
Oliver says 3 things to do to have a vegan ketogenic diet.
Yeah, I'm in. I want to go do it right now. So that's perfect. And again, is that Oliver? Is that who it was? Oliver, you could curate this information. That's the beautiful thing. You could have found this on YouTube and you could have said, look, I found the 3 ideas that work for me. One was from Tim Ferriss, one was from Elliot Holst, one was from this. This is how I use them in my life. Bam, that's a lead magnet. I would give you my email address and you just turned a listener into a customer. And that's going to make a massive difference for your podcast, for your reach, for the first hire you make, for everything. So great stuff. I like it.
Vivencio Jr. says how to create wealth using the secrets of the Bible.
Okay, now that sounds really cool. All right, I love it already. So again, a great example of a micro niche. I've been doing this for 7 years. I've never heard about that. I think it's really interesting. I think you would get both people who are religious and people who are not, downloading that. And again, there's a lot of people who still use religion for their business practices, right? I know in Islam, there's a thing about charging interest. I know a lot of people want to stay to their core values. So this is really interesting. So again, I like it. Keep it simple, folks. This shouldn't be complicated. 3 things that avoid mistakes I could make or that really give me value. So I like it a lot. Are there a few more?
Yeah, one more. Let's go. Reese Harris says the 3 things you need to do to get match fit for soccer.
Okay, again, perfect. Even if I've been playing soccer or football, as we say in this country, for 10 years, that sounds interesting enough that guess what? I will give you my email address on the outside chance that you might have something that could help me. Again, it might be one of those steps, something I've never thought about, that I would go ahead and give you that. And again, once you have the email address, you have my contact for life, and you can start really building a business around that podcast. And if you can do that, it'll change the course of the success of your podcast. So I love this. I think people will really get this. Let me go into part 2.
Let's do it.
All right, folks, now I want to talk about how to make the money. And again, I'm not here to tell you that money is everything, because it's not. There's a lot of things you can do, but without the money, it's really hard to keep a podcast consistent. With even $100,000, you can hire your first team member. You can possibly quit your job. Worst case, you can give some resources, maybe someone to work Photoshop, maybe someone to help you book guests, maybe a post-production person for audio, maybe hire a cameraman. My point is if you can get to that first $100,000 in revenue, you know you have something real. The truth is any old goofball can publish 3 episodes of a podcast, but it takes someone who has something real to make a business out of it. So that's why I'm really pushing you to do this. So let me talk about 6 ways to make money from your podcast. The truth is, I have done all 6 of these. And I will say something else, and if I'm being really objective, I think I'm probably the best person in the world that can teach you how to launch a podcast and how to turn it into a profitable business. Because I don't know anybody out there that has the reach that we do here at London Real, that has the experience that I do, that is teaching this stuff. There's literally no one. Because last time I checked, Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss aren't teaching this stuff, right? And so we're pretty much the next best thing you can get. I have used all of these 6 different methods of generating revenue on my podcast, and I'm going to show you the benefits of all of them tonight. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about how I got to this level. And as I mentioned to Julian earlier, I started off without any emails. I didn't know what to do with the podcast. I didn't know how to make money. And so what did I do? I fell back on the old media way of doing things. And I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and on TV, there were ads. And sometimes even on the programs themselves, they would sponsor products, right? Back in the old days, they'd say, here's a dog food that I support, or here's a laundry detergent. And so that's the way I was thinking in the beginning, like a real newbie, like an inexperienced person, and also a person with not much confidence. And so I started off thinking I need an advertiser. And so I started with Onnit, which is Joe Rogan's supplement company, a great company, but I was offering an affiliate program where I got 10% of the sale. I started with Bulletproof Coffee as a sponsor. They paid me by the month to sponsor their coffee. Once I got a little bit more confident, I started talking to affiliates like Squarespace, where I would get a percentage of the sale. Next, I thought about doing one-to-one coaching with people. After that, I thought about creating a membership site, which we did. After that, I thought about creating a digital product, live events, and after that, I thought about offering a mastermind. Every time I graduated to the newer step, I made more and more money, and I got more and more confidence, and I learned what really works when it comes to podcasting and how to create a digital business. And I want to share all of that with you tonight. So let's go to the board again, and let me walk you through these things. And again, I've never taught this before, so pay attention. And no one out there is teaching this who's actually doing this. And honestly, every week these days, there seems to be a new person teaching podcasting. But I always ask myself, where's their podcast? And where's their business? You can't really see it. But with London Real, you can literally watch our evolution. You can watch us moving into our world headquarters. You can watch the documentary films that we've made. You can watch our movie premieres we have in London. You can see our live events. You can see me flying to America to do joint ventures with Robert Kiyosaki, and I'll talk about the joint venture next. All of this happened because I started my podcast. Without pulling the trigger and broadcasting that first episode, it would have never happened. But it also would have never happened if I hadn't turned it into a business, because I would have quit. And so tonight, I want to show you how all of that happens, all right? So let's just call this how to make the money, all right? Let's put those dollar signs up there, and I'm going to give you 6 ways to make money with your podcast, all right? The first, and honestly, the most basic way is a sponsorship. A sponsor or an advertiser. All right? And let's talk about that. My first sponsor and advertiser was Bulletproof Coffee, right? And it was great. I had Dave Asprey on the show, and afterwards I pitched him. I said, look, I'm going to promote Bulletproof Coffee on all my shows. I'm going to serve it to my guests, and you're going to be the official drink of London Real, right? This sounds like something that came back to my days when I used to watch TV as a kid, right? And so that was my idea. I never thought that London Real would have a lead magnet like I taught you tonight. I never thought I could teach my own accelerator courses, or I could do a JV partnership like I just did with Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki. All I did was think, oh, let me get a sponsor that can be like an advertiser. And that worked, and I did it. And I started off with Bulletproof Coffee. Let me put an example here. Bulletproof Coffee was one of them. And again, we were making thousands of dollars a month, which back then was a lot of money. I was a one-man show. It paid for the rent of our studio. And it was a great starting out model. So that's one way you can make money. Get an advertiser, mention their name on your show, okay? But it's really just the first level. And I would like you to think that you can evolve to something else. So the second thing I did was I had an affiliate, okay? And in this case, it was Onnit. which is Joe Rogan's company. Again, an amazing supplement company. They're big into nootropics, all right? And what is an affiliate? An affiliate is someone who gives you a percentage of the revenue of the products you sell. So I still remember, if you go back to the early episodes of London Real, we're promoting Alpha Brain, which was the nootropic that Joe Rogan was selling, and you got 10% for every sale. You got that revenue into your pocket, right? And that was the affiliate deal from Onnit, and you got like $7 or $14 for every sale, and it was a way of making money, but it wasn't a great way, but it was the start of the business, all right? So let me talk about number 3, okay? Because that was just the beginning, and to be honest, it didn't get me very far, all right? It only got me to a certain level. Let's talk about the second tier of making money. Next, people started asking me to do coaching. They said, Brian, you're really good at what you do. We see how you're getting amazing guests on your show. Can you teach me how to start a podcast? Can you teach me how to turn your podcast into a business? Can you teach me how to publicly speak? We saw your TED Talk. All of these things started with coaching, okay? And with coaching, you can make okay money. You can make $150 up to $300 per hour, and you can offer your services in your micro niche to your audience, and you can make some money that way. And it's not a bad way to make money, but again, it's hard to scale, because for every hour of your time, you're only making a certain amount of money. So it only gets you so far, all right? And I did this briefly for a while, and it was okay, but it took me hours to do, and I only got a few students to get to the next level, and I made a bit of money, and it wasn't the best way. So next, Julian and I created London Real Academy, and it was our first membership site, and this is something else you can do, which is a membership site. Now, what is this? This is where you take your 1,000 or 2,000 podcast listeners and you say, hey, I've got a membership site. Our original one, London Real Academy, was $99 per quarter, $33 a month. For that, you get bonus content with the guests on the show. You get live calls with me. You get webinars with me where I teach you some of the things I've learned on the show. You get a community full of people. You get meetups in certain cities. You get contact information. You get all these extra bonuses, all right? And for this, we charge about $33 a month. And if you get 1,000 students there, then you've made $100,000 in 3 months, all right? So it's not a bad way of doing things. But I would argue there's still better that you can do, all right? And now is where we get to the final juicy tier of how to make money with your podcast, all right? Number 5 comes with a digital product, okay? And once you create that digital product, or also known as an online course, that is where things really happen. And this is when you're actually teaching the intellectual property that you've learned. And most people don't think they have a digital course in them. And that's why in my Broadcast Yourself course and my Business Accelerator, I literally get you to create a digital product and to sell it. And that's where you teach someone your IP, teach them about English as a second language, teach them about Star Wars, teach them about women in architecture, and charge them any number of prices from $297 up to $2,000, $3,000. This was a huge game changer for us. This is where the Business Accelerator was created, Broadcast Yourself was created, Speak to Inspire was created, and our Life Accelerator. These courses ranges from $2,000 up to $10,000, folks. This is how you're going to make your first $1 million online. This is how I made my first $1 million online, but you have to be ready to go into this final part. And number 6, everyone's like, Brian, I want the 6th one. The 6th one, which is kind of the cherry on top, is your masterminds and your joint ventures. Now, let me tell you a story. About 2 weeks ago, I was flown to Phoenix, Arizona, by Mr. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now, Robert was on the show about 4 years ago. Again, I made contact because I started my podcast. And I got a call from him a couple months ago. He said, Brian, we're starting this incredible new product. It's called the Cash Flow Zone. I want you to be involved. I want you to come out to Phoenix. I want you to interview me. I want you to be involved in the launch of this product. I remember our episode on London Real. I love what you're doing. I love your vibe. I love your audience. Let's do this. This, folks, is where the big game-changing opportunities happen. And they happen because you pulled the trigger on the podcast, because you created the email list, because you created the reach and you had enough revenues to continue. That's when these amazing, lucky opportunities, and again, there's an old saying, the harder you practice, the more you build your business, the luckier you get. That's where JV opportunities happen and mastermind groups happen where you can teach high-level businesses. I have something called my Inner Circle for my programs, and that's a mastermind group full of less than 10 people that are taking their businesses and their podcasts to the next level. And so these are 6 different ways of making money online with my podcast. I've done every single one of these. And to be honest, folks, this is an evolution. I started off here and I graduated to using my own intellectual property, and finally I graduated into where I was the product myself. My ideas, my endorsements, my training, my mentorship. And so this is what I want you to think about right now. And again, you might say, Brian, I haven't even started my podcast. How can I be thinking this far ahead? Well, it's like chess. Look at the grandmasters. What are they doing? They're thinking 5 moves ahead, 10 moves ahead, 20 moves ahead. Look at the great people in business, Steve Jobs of Apple, right? Elon Musk of Tesla. They're always thinking many, many moves ahead. And that's what I want you to do right now. So tell me right now, what are some of the ways you could make money with your podcast? Even if it doesn't exist, I want you to give me ideas right now. Who could be your sponsor? Who could be an affiliate? What could your first membership site be? What could your first digital product be? What would your JV partnership be? I want you to type these in there. Again, there's no wrong answers. You can give as many answers as you want, but type them in right now and give me all the levels. Tell me who would be your advertiser first. Tell me next, what would your membership site focus on? Tell me next, how could you coach people? Tell me next, what would your digital online product be? And finally, what would your JV partnership be? Maybe you want a JV with London Real. Maybe you want to bring female architects into our broadcast course. Maybe you want to bring Star Wars fans into our public speaking course. Maybe you want to bring English as a second language people into my business course. These are all JV partnerships, and I want you to think about this stuff right now. Again, push yourself. Get uncomfortable. Get these ideas out, right? It's all about the idea that's going to take you to the next level. And once you see the revenue possibilities, it'll make it easy to do that next podcast. Because each podcast you'll be thinking, wow, that next guest could be my Robert Kiyosaki like Brian had. That guest you did today could be your joint venture partnership in 2 years' time. So I want you to think about that right now. And again, while you're doing that, I want you to listen to one of my students. His name is Robert Bruce, and he is actually from the digital marketing industry. And this is him on how using podcasting was a network hack into his business, as in he got introductions via business he never would have got by making that really simple request, which is this: would you like to be on my podcast? That's how I met Robert Kiyosaki. That's how I met Tim Ferriss. That's how I met Dorian Yates. That's how I met Dan Pena, the $50 billion man. Would you like to be on my podcast? So here's Robert Bruce talking about that.
Digital marketing, that industry is very commoditized. It's extremely competitive. So I wanted to create something that I could use that would be a network hack for me. And if I can pick up the phone and invite people that I would otherwise have a hard time getting hold of to come on my show, I know that relationships would be formed from there and things just happen. That was my aim, that was my ultimate goal, to be broadcasting myself, and that's actually what's happened, and it's worked really well for me. I'm very happy with the result. And it took something like a London Real Broadcast Yourself course to help bring that out and to discover that and find out what that was. I was really well supported. I had a lot of people around me encouraging me, and I don't think there's anything such the thing as a self-made man. I think you need support, you need mentors, you need coaches, you need training. You had progressed such a long way. I've been watching your story and your journey for such a long time, and I just knew in my heart of hearts that there was more to broadcasting, more to podcasting than the mechanical recording of something. I knew that I needed a coach, I knew that I needed a mentor, and London Real was something that I was attracted to, and it's been really great for me. Meeting 150 other broadcasters, at first it's a little bit awkward. You got to get to know people. Who are these people? It feels like a bit of a competition. It's like you're always comparing yourself to these really polished guys and girls there, and I'm like, man, I look terrible compared to them. But you realize very quickly that you're all on the same journey together. And very quickly you form some really close friendships and some great bonds in there as well. So that's been really invaluable for me, and I'm glad that happened early on as well. We got all of that awkwardness out of the way straight away. It was good. I'm really comfortable being uncomfortable. I like that feeling because I know that I'm growing when I'm doing that. And each time I sit down at the microphone or sit down at my computer and prepare for an interview, it really feels like I'm growing just a tiny little bit every time. If you're not growing, you're dying. And every time I sit down there, I'm growing. And by doing lots and lots of interviews back to back and backing them up, I feel like my growth will accelerate nicely, so it's great. You're gonna have to go all in, and if you do that, you'll come out on the other side of it and you won't know yourself. You'll be a different person, you'll feel differently, you'll look at the world differently, and everything will feel different. Podcasting and interviewing is the fountain of youth. And I would have to echo that. That is so unbelievably true. And when I look back at where I was 2 or 3 months ago, thinking about doing something like this, and I just dived in and had a go at it. And here I am in London a couple of months later. Who would have thought? If you're thinking about it, don't think about it, just pull the trigger. Just go all in and hook into it, because it's well worth it.
Love hearing from Robert. You know, he really used this thing as a hack into his business. He made a lot of money off the JV partnerships from just people he had on his show. So this is great stuff. Now I want to go and talk to Julian now. You should be telling me the different revenue ideas that you have for your podcast. Again, this could be an advertiser, an affiliate, a membership site, a digital course, a JV partnership. Again, there's no wrong answers. Just type in all of the possibilities. If you're like me, you might have to start with something really simple and basic, but I want you to quickly graduate to this concept of a digital program. This is a hard thing for people to get used to. I remember the first time we launched the Business Accelerator, we were like, are we ready for this? Are we ready to teach an 8-week course in business? And honestly, we weren't sure, but we pulled the trigger and it was a massive game changer. So I hope people are getting their heads around this. What are people saying when it comes to these revenue sources?
Jason's got a good question here. He says, how do you get a company to sponsor you while you might only be getting 10 to 20 listeners when you've just started?
Yeah, look, this is a great question. You know, a lot of it comes down to mission statement and to passion. So when I sold to Bulletproof, we never talked about numbers. He was like, wow, Brian, I see what you're doing. I love your attitude. I love your mission. I want to be part of this journey. All right. So that's one way to do it. The other one is to do an affiliate deal where you get a percentage of what they sell. And that's something that more people will be open to. A lot of times the affiliate programs are out there and you can just sign up to them. But it's a good point. I always try to sell on mission and on value and the quality of the people, as opposed to say downloads or CPM. But the truth is the faster you graduate to the digital product, the better. Because that's when you collect 100% of the revenues and you can really start making a lot of money. Very important.
And Tizzy's just asking quickly, what is a JV? Could you just explain that again?
No problem. JV stands for joint venture. So what that usually is a partnership with another person in business where you create something that you can equally share in the profits, like a 50-50%. So, for example, this thing with Robert Kiyosaki, the cash flow zone, it's this financial product, and we both bring something to the table and we share in the revenues. And we do this all the time with movies, with other projects, where you basically reach out to someone and you say, look, I have a digital product that teaches female architects how to get somewhere in life. Brian, would you like to do a JV with me where you send out your email list, you invite people to the product, and I give you 50% of the revenues? So that's a great example of that. Another example would be calling up Tim Ferriss and say, hey, Tim, can you send out your email list and tell them about my Broadcast Yourself course? You know it's amazing, and I'll give you half of the revenue. And he'd be like, well, yeah, I've got an email list. I know your product is amazing. I can make a lot of money really quick. That's a joint venture where you find another key person of influence. So great question.
Rachel here says, she'd like to start a course for how female architects can start a business while on maternity leave.
Okay, cool. This is really interesting. I like the idea of a course. Again, this is the 4th level of revenue, so she's already thinking big. She could say advertise for like an architecture consultancy firm or an architecture software company. That's kind of an advertising affiliate thing. She could have the membership site, which I think is great, but there are some hangups there, and I teach this in my courses. I like the digital product where she teaches something very specific to a specific set of people. So again, maternity leave, architects, female obviously, and how to get through that and how to make money on when you come back, etc. That's a perfect thing you can do. It can be a 2-week, a 4-week, a 6-week course. It could be a product that costs $1,000, and again, you keep 100% of that revenue. So if you're thinking about that now, you can already start thinking about the guests you want on the show. You can be talking about it in your podcast, and you can already be building the email list that sells the product. Really important. So I think that's a great idea.
David says, coaching, helping people deal with anxiety and learning to apply reason and science to evaluate information.
Okay, I love this. Well, think about what you're doing with a podcast. You're putting out information, you're showing your expertise, you're talking to a small group of an audience. What's the next step? They want personal coaching from you. They like you. They're getting used to you every week. You obviously speak with the experts. Why not plug a coaching business in and make a few $1,000s here and there? It's a great way to start your revenue stream. The other great thing about coaching, Julian, I didn't really mention this earlier, is it shows you the intellectual property you have that people are willing to pay for. When you create a digital program, all you do is take specific coaching pieces and put them in one stream, and that becomes a digital product. And again, we show you this, how to do this in our Broadcast Yourself course. And again, you collect 100% of this revenue, and that's how we went to the next level in our business and in our impact.
Finally, Victor here is thinking about physical products. He says he already has a clothing brand. He would use that and sell it on the podcast.
Okay, look, I like that. I would rather you sell something on the podcast and mention it and give away samples to your guests and talk about it. I like that. I think that's great. I also like digital products to go in combination with physical products. Physical products are great, but you got to have fulfillment, you got to have delivery, you got refunds. A digital product, you keep 100% of the profit and you can JV with people. Again, if I call Tim Ferriss up and say you can have 50% of my revenues, I don't have to worry about something being returned, something have to be built, something having to be created. Usually I find, Julian, and you know this is true, it's a lack of confidence that keeps people from selling digital products. Trust me, you have everything you need to offer a digital product. If you have a lead magnet that's a downloadable guide to something, you can then teach people your intellectual property. And again, I teach business. I don't have to be Harvard Business School. I don't have to be Richard Branson, but I know a lot about business in my area. So people are willing to pay me. They'll pay you to do the same. Start thinking now about your revenue. It'll change everything you do about broadcasting, and it'll keep you broadcasting when everyone else quits. All right, good. Let me get to this final part, because if you don't know this, you're not going to understand anything about what I talked about tonight. And I guarantee you'll never finish your podcast, probably past 5 or maybe 10 episodes. And that is the podcasting revenue roadmap. This is really important because this probably ups your chance of success by 10 or even 100 times. So to do this, I want to talk about a concept called the end-to-end ecosystem. And again, let's go back to the board because I love teaching on this board. And this is a process and a concept that's really, really important. And I'll never forget one of my guests, Daniel Priestley, taught me this. And it's so important, especially if you're starting off podcasting, because it is something that you give out there for free. And most people don't think that free can lead to $100,000. And I understand why. So this is something I call my E to E, which is the end-to-end ecosystem. All right. And any business has every part of this ecosystem, all right? And it looks something like this. Okay, and yes, okay, here we go. This is the end-to-end ecosystem, and it consists of products of different price points. Every business has products of different prices. Now, if you're only a podcaster on iTunes, you just have one price of a product and it's $0. All successful businesses have different price points, all right? And it starts off with your first product price point, which is free product, okay? And in your case, your free product is going to be your podcast, all right? This is very, very important. Every week, for example, you're going to be putting out great content. You're going to be interviewing amazing guests, teaching them things about how to be an architect, how to be female and in maternity leave, how to appreciate Star Wars, how to have English as a second language. You're going to be constantly putting out free product in the form of a podcast. Very, very important, all right? So the podcast is out there first. Very, very important. Next, we talk about what we call your low-cost product, all right? Very important because this product is from $27 to $97, all right? It's called a low-cost product. The next is something that I call a prime product. This is a product that costs anywhere between, say, $1,000 and $5,000. And finally, we have something that we call your back end. And this is where you literally can make millions of dollars. Every successful business and every successful podcast, more importantly, has a complete end-to-end ecosystem. And any unsuccessful podcast only has one of these, which is most likely this top part here. Maybe they only have 2, but they definitely don't have 3 levels to this. And let me explain why this is super, super important. Because if you don't have each one of these price points, you'll never be successful as a podcast and you'll never be successful as a business. And let me give you an example to illustrate how this works for someone out there who is successful in the podcasting world. And I like to think of a man named Jocko Willink, who's been on the show 2 times before. He's a former Navy SEAL who's just completed 150 plus episodes of his podcast. Jocko understands the end-to-end ecosystem better than almost any other podcaster I've seen out there. And it's the reason why he's still podcasting after 150 episodes. It's the reason why he's built this into a global movement, because there's a real business behind what he's doing. And so let's dive in a little bit deeper into what actually Jocko does. First of all, he has a weekly show, right? Just like hopefully you do and just like we do at London Real. He has a weekly podcast, and he talks about war. He talks about all aspects of war. He interviews veterans. He talks about his own experience. It's an amazing product, and it's for free. It goes out there. It lets people know who he is and everything's about him. But next, Jocko has his low-cost product. And Jocko actually has a few of these. He's got a book or multiple books that he sells on Amazon, Extreme Ownership, The Dichotomy of Leadership, the Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual. He's got amazing children's books, Mark's Mission, and I read them to my kids. Amazing low-cost product. He's got Jocko White Tea. He's got protein supplements. Jocko really understands this part of his business, which is the low-cost product. But if he had stopped there, he would have struggled as a podcaster. And I see this happen all the time. And I struggled when I was a podcaster. I had an affiliate deal with Onnit, and I had a free product. And you're going to struggle all day long because you're never going to make enough money to really be free, to have the money to quit your job, to hire a person. It's just never going to become financially viable. And that's because Jocko has a prime product. And what he has is what he calls his musters. 3 or 4 times a year, he has events where people pay $2,000, $3,000 to come to his events in New York City and San Diego, where he's from, in Texas. And this is where he makes a bulk of his money on this prime offering. But there's even more. And that is Jocko's back-end product. And that's something he calls Echelon Front. And that is his consultancy service for businesses, where he teaches business leaders how to have extreme ownership and learn lessons from the military on how to run their companies. And this is a perfect example of an end-to-end ecosystem. It's a podcaster that was thinking before he started podcasting. He was thinking, okay, I got a free product, I've got a low-cost product, I've got a prime offer, and my back-end product. And if you look at successful podcasts, they all have this. Who else? Tim Ferriss, author of The 4-Hour Workweek, The 4-Hour Body, The 4-Hour Chef. What does he have? Well, Tim has a free podcast, right? 2 every week sometimes. I think he does 6 episodes a month. So it's 1 every about a week and a half. No, 1 every about 4 or 5 days is what he does. Next, Tim has his books. You can buy all of his books, Tools of Titans, Tribe of Mentors, all of his different books. For his prime offer, Tim charges people for speaking engagements. He goes out and speaks and charges money to make appearances at public events. But what's his back end? Tim Ferriss does consultancy for companies like Uber, and he gets equity shares that end up being worth millions. And I don't even want to know how many hundreds of millions of dollars. Why is Tim still podcasting? Because he has an end-to-end ecosystem, folks. You got to think about the business first, right? And it goes on. Think about Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has a free podcast every week. What else does he have? He has sponsorships every single week. He reads out advertisements for all these different companies. They all pay him low-cost products, and they pay him even more in thousands of dollars. What else does he have? He goes on tour as a comedian. He sells out lots of tickets for his comedy shows. And what's his back end? He's just done a Netflix special, and they've paid him, I don't want to guess, but probably a lot of money to pay for his comedy show. Now, would they pay for that if he didn't have a free podcast that had reach of tens of millions of people? Probably not. So folks, I want you to think about this whole concept of your end-to-end ecosystem before or during the start of your podcast. If you can think of this right now, you can really engineer something that will be with you forever, that can literally change your life and get you to stop working your day job if you choose, hire staff, make your first $100,000 and your first $1 million. Think about this concept of your end-to-end ecosystem, and we have it here at London Real. We have our free episodes every week. I have my low-cost product in my Tribe membership site. I have my prime offer with my Broadcast Yourself course, my Business Accelerator, and my Speak to Inspire, and I have my back-end JV opportunities like I'm doing with Robert Kiyosaki. All of this makes the podcast go strong. If you can think of this now, you will build a business, you'll build a successful podcast, you'll change the world, and you'll change your life. So right now, I want you to think ahead of the game and think about what will your prime offer be. And I know you're thinking, Brian, how can I think about something I'm going to charge $1,000 or $2,000 for? I haven't even started my podcast. This is the time to think about it right now. And if you're getting stuck, think about what's a 2-day live event that you could do in your city where your podcast listeners would fly in from around the world. You could bring in special guests and you could teach them how to X, Y, Z, how to A, B, C. So I want you to type that in the chat right now and tell me what could be your first prime offering from $1,000 to $5,000. It might be a live event. Maybe it's an online course that lasts for 8 weeks, but I want you to type it in there right now. Again, everything begins with a thought. What you type in here right now, you could easily manifest in 3 months with the right mentorship and you could really make this happen. It'll change your podcast and your life. So go ahead and type that in right now. Again, I expect answers from everybody. I can see all of you there in the chat. I'm going to throw you off of this thing if you don't give me an answer. So type it in right now. I'll give you some feedback. And while we're doing that, I want you to listen to one of my students. His name is Chris Popoff. He's a Canadian entrepreneur. And this is about his entire experience of me mentoring him to start his own podcast and turn it into a business. Here's Chris.
A smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from someone else's mistakes. So what we've really done in this course is you've written a live book. We've read your book, except we get to hang out with the author, and you get to explain to us all the mistakes that you made over the last 6 years. That's your intellectual property that you're so generously offering through this program. Yeah, there's a cost to it, but that's so it can exist. And it's well worth it. What we've done is avoid all those mistakes. So 6 years of pain and frustration accelerated, just gone, out the door. These are the minimum viable steps you need to take to have a show. I can't tell you how many years that saved me, right? How valuable is that? Time is the one resource we can't yet create more of. So that's really what I got out of this, was years of difficult frustration. I got to learn from your mistakes, right? So hopefully that makes me slightly wiser for having done this. And you know, that the program is interesting because it's this nice mix of digital products that you can go back to anytime, but then there's the element of the live calls and the Facebook messaging and the community, now real life interaction. So it's this really multi-dimensional experience, and it's frankly, it's just delightful.
And Chris is just one of many, many hundreds of my students that his podcast literally changed the course of his business and his life. I love hearing from him. He continues to be successful to this day in what he does. And now I want to go and find out from you, what is that prime offering? What's that event you could do, or that digital process, or that accelerator course that you could teach to really make that revenue from your audience? Julian, I'm just curious if people get this concept. I know it's hard for some people to say, Brian, they don't even have the podcast yet. How can I think about the revenue stream? But as you and I both know, if we had done this exercise, this simple 5-minute exercise, it would have changed the course of London Real. What are people saying?
Valerie is saying her prime product would be a yearly event for an adventure camp for grown-ups.
Okay, an adventure camp for grown-ups, this sounds good. Put a price point on it and be a bit more specific, and I like it. Why yearly? Why not quarterly? So again, I would push you to do this and think about what specifically will you teach them. This will all affect what your podcast is about, the guests that you have on. So again, build these things in unison. People always think, I'll start the podcast and then I'll do this. Start building them together and you'll have that entire ecosystem.
Cosmo says, my selling system is 20 members, $5,000 per person for a 2-day session, followed up with one-on-one coaching and mentoring.
Okay, I like it. Look, you got to think big here, and you got to put these prices out there. Again, the first time we sold an accelerator, we thought $2,000 was a lot of money. Now we regularly have people buying our products for $10,000. You got to stick it out there, because you can find the person in the world that really needs your training and your personal coaching. They will pay $5,000, so put it out there. Put your revenue projections out there and constantly be thinking about that in your podcast. Again, you only need 20 customers to get that first $100,000. Think big, provide value, and you will make it happen.
And Rachel says, a weekend away with a cool destination, mixing relaxation and training for women to get away and learn business of starting their architecture practice.
Okay, look, I love this. I love the weekend away. I love, again, making this just about women. So you can really talk about something specific. That micro niche concept is really important, something I teach in my courses. And again, like, why not have that weekend away? Some people can justify it as a business expense. They talk about it as training and learning, and it can be something that you really do that's special. You can also take video and pictures where you can promote it next time. It's time to start thinking about this now, folks. Build that end-to-end ecosystem, okay? The free podcast is obvious. The low-cost product is actually pretty simple to do. That prime offering is what really will give you the revenue to build that business and make it something really incredible. So I think people are on the right frame here. Good. All right, I want to finish with this thought here. The truth is that the opportunity for podcasting has never been as good as it is right now. And the truth is, in probably the next 1 year to 2 years, it's going to be a saturated environment. So the time to put your ideas out there now and establish your audience it's right now. And if you want to contact and deeply connect with amazing influencers, people that are your idols, people's books that you read, conferences that you attend, if you want to build a following, I mean, we connect with 100 million people here at London Real, even if it's with a few thousand. If you want to impact people's lives, if you want to transform this podcast into a business that you can live every single day, it's not going to be as good as it is right now. And this opportunity will go away because more and more people are getting into this space. So I would argue the time to act is right now. Don't give yourself excuses. Don't say next year. Don't say it's going to happen with this, with this, with that. And so I want to give you the opportunity to learn from the best. And the truth is, there's a complex way and there's a simple way of doing this. You could go out there and go to YouTube and say, okay, how do I set up my podcast? How do I find a microphone? Let me go to a website and see if someone's going to teach me how to book guests. You could try to do it on your own, but we know how that ends. You just don't follow through, it's easy to quit. You could go out there and try to buy an online course, and people send you videos about how to buy a microphone and about how to do this and how to do that. But the truth is it's very hard to follow through. A lot of times these are taught by people who've never actually done this stuff, who haven't spent 7 years of their existence speaking with the greatest guests in the world and building an entire business out of it. And so there is actually a third option, and that is something that I call broadcast yourself. And I am introducing the world's first online accountability course. And on it, I will mentor you to launch a world-class podcast and turn it into a business in 8 short weeks. In this, you're going to get a complete A to Z guide and roadmap on how to launch the podcast. I'm going to show you a proven path on how to turn this thing into a sustainable business. And I'm going to work with you closely and guarantee your success with what I call my triple-tiered accountability system. The truth is that 96% of my students get 5 episodes on iTunes within the first 8 weeks. I've graduated over 1,000 people with this course, located in 76 countries from around the world. And this course is based on 3 pillars. Those are strategy, community, and accountability. The strategy is based on 8 video modules. You've got lifetime access to these, and you've got workbooks, and the video modules are this. We start with number 1, and I call this Start With Why. Here, I'm going to show you a 3-step process for combining your interests to find the perfect podcast topic for you so you can hit the ground running with a show you're excited about. I'm going to show you how to craft your North Star mission statement. You're going to uncover the core reasons why you're starting this show and make it a true reflection of who you are. And finally, I'm going to show you how to assemble your mini audience. And this is a hand-picked group of listeners that's going to give you direct feedback on you're going to hone your show this way. Again, this is Start With Why, module number 1. Next is module 2. And here you're going to discover what I call your 1,000 true fans. I'm going to cover the London Real Podcast Sprint. This is based on Google's famous design sprints. This is where you test your podcast idea so you make sure it'll be a hit before you create your first episode. I'm going to keep your 1,000 true fans. I'm going to show you the roadmap so it aligns with your interests, with the gaping holes in the market, and generate your first 1,000 fans as fast as possible. Finally, I'm going to show you how to be competition-proof and how to get people to see your show as a cut above the other podcasts out there. And now we're getting warmed up, folks, because this is module 3. Now you're going to build your cutting-edge platform. I'm going to show you the perfect microphone and the software for you. I'm going to get you to avoid complex and expensive tools that you don't need. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know when it comes to naming your podcast, including real-life case studies, as well as must-know information regarding copyright and trademarks. And I'm going to give you step-by-step tutorials on how to use your equipment so you can master it fast, even if you're not a tech person. And now, it's module number 4. It's time to book your guests, folks. And I'm going to show you proven email templates for getting well-known influencers to say yes to an interview. I'm actually going to show you the exact emails I sent to people like Dorian Yates and Tim Ferriss to book them on my show, even though I had no following at the time. Next, I'm going to give you the London Real interview preparation templates. You're going to go into your show knowing exactly what to ask and the key topics that's going to resonate with your listeners. I'm going to show you the original word-for-word documents I use to prepare for people like Graham Hancock and Tim Ferriss. And finally, I'm going to show you the 5 places where you'll find a nonstop stream of inspiring guests all year long. Places like iTunes and Amazon. And folks, now it's time to broadcast your first conversation, because in Module 5, that's when the rubber hits the road, and you will discover a detailed episode checklist that I'm going to have you use every time before you launch, so you never get any technical problems and you can enjoy the conversation. I'm going to teach you 3 what I call instant rapport techniques to get your guests comfortable to opening up with you. And finally, I'm going to teach you minimal post-production, how to edit your episode in 1/10 of the time that an average podcaster uses. And folks, now we're flowing. Module 6 is coming. Now it's time to join the top 1%. I'm going to give you the keys to interview mastery. That includes my pre-interview ritual that gets me out of anxiety and in the zone before every interview. Next, I'm going to show you how to start, lead, and close a conversation while staying in the moment. And I'm going to teach you my top techniques for creating deep connection, including what I call my icebreaker strategy and my 80-20 rule. These powerful techniques allow you to go deep and fast. And next, it's Module 10, folks. I'm going to show you how to 10x your audience. I'm going to teach you an in-depth, behind-the-scenes breakdown of the exact promotion strategies that we've used to get over 80 million downloads and over 500,000 YouTube subscribers. I'm going to give you the London Real podcast marketing blueprint. And finally, I'm going to show you how to land guest appearances on other people's well-known podcasts. And then it's time to launch this thing. Module 8, we are going to launch your podcast. And again, I'm going to show you how to execute the perfect launch day. Plus, I'm going to give you word-for-word templates that you can use to generate enormous buzz for your show. I'm going to teach you how to deal with critics and haters and how to use them to your advantage. And finally, I'm going to show you your podcast growth blueprint, how to plan out your next 12 months of content, how to start your JV partnerships, and really turn this thing into a business. But there's more, because I got 3 bonuses I'm giving away tonight if you decide to join me right now on this masterclass. The first is bonus number 1, and this is how to turn your show into a hit YouTube channel. I'm going to teach you the 5 London Real tactics to maximize your presence on YouTube. I'm going to show you the tools we use to hack YouTube SEO. And I'm going to show you behind-the-scenes techniques of how to make your show go viral. And we should know 100 million views. We know exactly what we're talking about, but there's more. I've got free bonus number 2. This is how to transform your podcast into a 6 or even 7-figure business. I'm going to be showing you even deeper details on how to make each one of those 6 income streams into a profit for your podcast. I'm going to go harder on showing you exactly how to turn those leads and listeners into revenue-generating customers. And I'm going to show you the detailed podcast business blueprint. But folks, I'm giving away something in bonus number 3 that I've never given away before. I'm actually going to take something from our Business Accelerator course, and I'm going to teach you exactly how to create your very own digital product that you can sell on your podcast. And again, I'm going to be going deeper here on a product success path, something I teach called your minimum viable product, and how you can get your very first revenues from your podcast. Again, this is stuff that only we teach, and I've taught students how to make hundreds of thousands, actually millions of dollars in this way. All of that is yours in the strategy component, but there's more, because the second pillar is community. And this is what's a real big game changer for us. You will not be alone on this journey. You'll be joining 150 people from around the world, and we're all going through this together as a team, like a Navy SEAL team. We're going to go through hardships and success and joy and pain, and we're going to make this thing happen. You're going to move through this course with people from around the world with new ideas, and you're going to meet people who are going to become your friends, your partners, your investors, and your collaborators. And at the very end of all of it, you're going to come to London for an optional graduation ceremony, and you're going to hang out together. This is what it looks like when everybody gets together, and it's really a very special time for graduation. I'm telling you, folks, this network of people is actually worth more than the whole course itself. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm an amazing teacher. The mentorship is something you don't get anywhere. The intellectual property is amazing, but the network, this will be yours for 10 years, for the next 50 years of your life. People you will partner here, make millions of dollars with. These are people that are at the cutting edge of their industries from around the world. And these aren't people that just talk the talk. These are people that have pulled the trigger and walked the walk and are literally building a podcast alongside of you. But there's even more, because the third pillar is our accountability process. And I am offering you triple-tiered accountability. What does that mean, Brian? That means 16 hours of live calls. And you can see this here in the diagram now that's on your screen. Also, there's something I call the accountability doc. And finally, I am offering you 24/7 live support from my team. Any question you have about anything will be replied to. And again, 16 hours of live calls to teach you these things. And this is exactly how it works. We start and we do a keynote call on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock London time. That's a live call. And we have a workshop call on Sunday. The very first call is the 27th of November. The last call is the 3rd of February. We're taking a 2-week break over the Christmas and holiday season. Folks, this is happening right now. You are going to build this podcast right in front of your own eyes. And again, I'm going to be taking a whole team through this 8-week process. We're going to create episodes, 8 episodes. We're going to get them on iTunes. We're going to change your life and your business. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And tonight only, I am offering you a fast action bonus. And you can see what this is. This is what I call the Broadcaster's Blueprint. And these are what I call success secrets from some of the best broadcasters out there, including Mr. Elliot Hulse, who is here today in the studio. He's the star of Yo Elliot and Strength Camp. I think he's got nearly 3 million subscribers. You're also going to learn from Tom Bilyeu, who's the host of Impact Theory with nearly 1 million subscribers. And of course, Jamal Edwards, who's the founder here of SBTV, over 1 million subs. You are going to get the Broadcaster's Blueprint, which is information for them. That is a fast action bonus that is yours tonight if you decide to join us. Now, let me talk about that, because I've got 2 more bonuses I want to give to you tonight if you decide to pay in full. And the first is this: Dan Pena, live at the Ritz. This is one of my mentors, the $50 billion man. This is a one-day event we held in London where 30 high-level entrepreneurs flew in from around the world. We had a billionaire in the room, and this is Dan Pena at his finest. This video alone will fire you up and get you across the finish line when it comes to your podcast and your business. It's got a $2,000 value I'm offering you for free. And the next is a live video kickoff call with me before the course starts. This is on November 26th, where I'm going to be going deep into your podcast idea and your business and giving you some personal mentorship and advice. That's a $997 value. Both of these are free for you tonight if you decide to pay in full. And so this is the total value I'm offering you here tonight. That is 8 hours of on-demand video training. This is bonus number 1, turn your podcast into a hit YouTube show. Bonus number 2, transform your podcast into a profitable 6- or 7-figure business. Bonus number 3, the Business Accelerator Module 5, how to create a product. The fast action bonus, the Broadcaster's Blueprint. Dan Pena live at the Ritz. The live video kickoff call. 16 hours of live video calls. 24/7 email support for 8 weeks. Lifetime access to the course, the workbooks, and the community. And of course, the Broadcast Yourself graduation ticket. Folks, this is a total value of $24,045. I am offering you all of this tonight for a very small level of investment. And that is all for the price of $2,997. If you pay in full right now, all of this becomes yours. I will email you Dan Pena live at the Ritz. I will book your private call with me. I will send you the first module. I will give you all the bonuses. I will give you the fast action bonus, and you will have a podcast in 8 weeks guaranteed, or your money back. You will be on the start of creating a business, and you will have something that is sustainable, that will literally change the course of your life, change the course of your business. You will be building an audience of fans and subscribers from around the world. You'll be connecting with people that you once dreamed about. Your heroes will become your friends, and it's happened with me. I know it because I've made it happen, and I'm going to teach you how to do that myself. I will be personally mentoring you along the way through live calls every single week. I've done this with over 1,000 students. It works. The proof is in the pudding. And so all of that can be yours tonight. There's a link there. You can click it right now for $2,997. Again, we have 10 times the value of that inside the course. And so that's what you get if you pay in full. For some of you, I understand you might not have all of that money right now, so I've offered a payment plan. So for $297 per month, you can sign up right now. $297 gets you in the door, gets you in the private Facebook group, gets you the modules, gets you everything you need to know to start yourself. And of course, $297 for the next 12 months gets you in here. I also have a premium offer, which gives you your own London Real interview here at the studio during graduation. You get to sit in the leather chair. That interview itself can be one of your podcast episodes. You can put it on YouTube. That interview itself can probably land you JV partnerships. It's a business opportunity. That's for premium for $4,997. And of course, if you want to join my mastermind group called The Inner Circle and get 6 months of personal mentorship after the course is over, that is for $9,997. And again, that's a very small group of people that are building 7- and 8-figure businesses, that are doing TED Talks and writing books. That is what that Inner Circle group. And so what happens next is a link in the chat. You want to click on that link, follow it to a form, put in your email address, put in your credit card information, pull the trigger and buy. Folks, the truth is, this is the last time I am offering this course this year. This will go fast. This will be oversubscribed, as it always is. People see what a podcast can do. They know that I am the only person in the world that can show you how to turn this into a business. So click on the link and join us tonight. Again, this will be selling out. I've already had people from around the world that have pulled the trigger on this course. But there's one more thing that I want to talk about right now, and that is the 60-day money-back guarantee. And again, I have a no man or woman policy left behind. And again, I promise you this. If you attend all of my live calls, if you do all of the work and you show up to the end of the course and you are not absolutely 100% satisfied, you can have your money back. That's how confident I am in my program. And that's why I'm prepared to offer you this 60-day money-back guarantee. You can basically try this course for free. If you're not absolutely satisfied, if you come to the calls and you do the work, I'll give you a refund. And I'll do that because I know this course works. So you can pull the trigger right now and join me and test this thing out. So let me say in summary, this is what you will create if you pull the trigger right now and join me on this course. You will create an award-winning podcast using the best strategies and techniques from London Real. You will connect with high-level influencers in your industry. You will impact thousands of lives through your platform. You will learn the art of conversation using techniques from the top 1% of interviewers, and you will build a profitable business around your passion. That is what I'm offering you tonight. And of course, now I would love to answer any questions you have about this program, but I will say this. This always happens, and I always tell Julian this. This course will be sold out. I only have a limited number of spaces on this course because there's something I don't usually talk about, is that I have individual team leaders, one for every 25 students on my course. These are graduates of my Broadcast Yourself course that have built successful businesses around their podcast. This is an extra layer of leadership and accountability, and I only have a certain number of team leaders. So when those places fill up, the course is closed for this year. So sign up now. If you can, lock that spot in with the payment plan. We can upgrade you later. And now I want to go to Julian and answer any questions you might have. You know, Julian, a lot of people have questions about what this course is all about, but I always tell people, as I meet people all the time, and they say, Brian, I want to start a podcast just like you. And I say, now is the time. Because if you wait 6 months from now or 1 year from now, someone's going to take your idea and they're going to start the podcast that you thought about. Because the truth is billions of people around the world right now can start. It's never been as easy as it is right now. So I always tell people, don't give me the same excuse. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. My life is busy right now. I just had a kid. I just got married. I just got divorced. I just got fired. I just got hired. These are all excuses. The time to start broadcasting is right now, and that's what I tell people. So what are some of the questions that people are asking?
We've got Lisa Ellis, who's obviously done our Speak to Inspire course,
Yes.
is on the BizAct right now. She says she's dying to join it. She's left us a private message. We'll pick that up straight after this.
Oh yeah, of course. I talked about Lisa earlier. So Lisa was on her Speak to Inspire, then she joined Business Accelerator. She hasn't yet joined Broadcast, but I know she's going to. So that's why I said, Lisa, you're going to do it. Again, for Lisa, this is just such an obvious piece. She's built the Business Accelerator. Basically, the podcast plugs into the free product of the end-to-end ecosystem. But the truth is, Lisa, is that the podcast is going to connect you with so many different JV partners, just like Robert Kiyosaki did for me. How did I start with Robert? I invited him on my show 4 years ago. 4 years later, he called up with this literal game-changing opportunity. It'll probably make millions of dollars, all because I started the podcast. So Lisa, you know what I'm going to tell you. Pull the trigger and join us, and I'm sure you will.
And Vivencio's on our Business Accelerator, and
Yes.
he's saying he's preoccupied with other courses. Jorge is also asking, can I manage the Business Accelerator and Broadcast Yourself at the same time?
Look, the truth is, Vivencio is doing an amazing job in the Business Accelerator, and so is Jorge as well. There's an overlap of 1 to 2 weeks of these courses. But the truth is, I only teach this course about once a year. And it plugs right into the Business Accelerator plan. You can either take this course before or after the Business Accelerator. It's a perfect match. And so the thing is, you've already built this amazing ecosystem. You literally plug the podcast into the top of this. So yeah, I would say pull the trigger, take action on this, and push through those first week or two of overlap. Literally, I can get you 8 episodes on iTunes in 8 weeks. Once you're up there and you see your name in lights, everything changes. People find they have JV partnerships within the first 2 weeks. I'm telling you, Vivencio and Jorge, this will change your business faster than anything you've done inside the Business Accelerator. I'm telling you, pull the trigger now. You're all fighting resistance, which says, I want to hold back, I want to wait. That's always the wrong thing to do. Pull the trigger, try it out for 8 weeks. If you're not fully satisfied, you can have your money back.
Dean says, Brian, what kind of hours are we talking here?
Great question, all right? People always ask me, what's the time commitment? I am looking for 2 to 4 hours per week to do this course. It's not the time that's going to really be in your way. It's your own resistance, okay? That's why this is an online accountability course, because I have to be with you every step of the way mentoring you, because you're going to stop if you do it on your own. And I've seen this so many times, Julian. People get to the point where it's time to record their first podcast or buy their first microphone, and all of a sudden there's all these excuses. People go to book their first guest and they stop. That's because I hold you accountable. But all I need is 2 to 4 hours a week, which is about 20 to 30 minutes per day is all I'm looking for. So if you go right now to your phone and take the Facebook app and delete it, basically you can do this course. The biggest problem you're going to have is resistance, because I'm going to push you out of your comfort zone. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and put your ideas out there on social media. I'm going to ask you to reach out to guests who you think they're going to say no, Brian. I'm going to ask you to go to your mini audience. I'm going to ask you to record yourself and put yourself on iTunes. There's going to be so much resistance, but that's why I'm here, to push you and mentor you and get you through to the other end. I guarantee you 8 episodes on iTunes in 8 weeks. That's what we do inside here. Uh-oh, what is that in your hand, Julian? What's about to happen here?
That is the gong stick.
The gong? What's the gong about? What is this thing on my head?
The gong is what we hit every time someone decides to pull the trigger, Mr. Rose.
All right, it's happening now, huh? Yes! Trigger pullers.
Trigger pullers.
Who's that?
That was Egon Arenberg from the USA.
All right, my fellow Yanks. Egon, you just pulled the trigger, all right? And so this is happening live, folks. We will gong anybody who pulls the trigger live. First of all, you've locked in all those bonuses, which go after this masterclass. I'm sorry, I can't give you the bonuses if you're not going to purchase on this masterclass. But more importantly, you pulled the trigger. And so right now, there's a lot of people watching me right now, and there's a lot of people in the Facebook workshop group. And I like to say that these people are what I call tourists. And what does a tourist do? They go to an exotic location, and you're like, wow, look at what's happening here. I'm hanging out with people that do podcasts every day. They're turning things into businesses. They're showing me everything that's possible. And then what does the tourist do? They go home back to their old life with their old job and their old nonsense. And so that's what you just did. You stopped being a tourist right now when you pulled the trigger. And sure, you've had doubt. You're like, I don't know if this is right, Brian. I don't know if I have the time. It's a lot of money I'm going to spend. But you still pulled the trigger. And that's why I'm going to spend my time personally mentoring you over the next 8 weeks. I invest in people that invest in me and invest in themselves. And that's why you've just joined a special group. So you're going to get an invite to go into the private Facebook group. And again, this isn't like the workshop group. This is for people that are walking the walk, that are actually going to build a podcast and are going to stop talking about it. I hate meeting people that talk about the business they're going to do, that talk about the podcast. You're going to get the first module. If you paid in full, you're going to get Dan Pena live at the Ritz. We're going to book our kickoff call. Welcome to the next level. You get an itchy trigger finger there.
Vivencio says he's going to do it, and of course, as a graduate, you get 10% off as well as a returning student, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Any graduate of a previous course gets 10% off, and again, we'll give you that refund right away. So, Vivencio, pull the trigger so I can give you the gong. The gong has become kind of a cult thing, and a lot of times people want their specific gong on there. So,
Zara says, do you have to pay the sum all at once?
Good question. So, just recently, a few people came to me and said, look, Brian, I see the value. It's worth $24,000. Some people say this program is worth $40,000 or $50,000 in the personal mentorship, in the online accountability, in everything that we teach. And so that's why they're very happy to pay that quite low payment of $2,997. But some of them really need a payment plan. And so that's what we introduced very recently, was the $297 a month for 12 months. So for $297, you can get everything I just described. Yeah? You can get the bonuses. You can get all of the modules. You can get the network. You can get lifetime access to the workbooks, to everything. If you pull the trigger right now and pay $297 and do it monthly after that. And I have to say this, Julian, and some people call me harsh for this, but if you can't come up with $297, first of all, I don't believe you, and you don't want this bad enough. So if you can't make a couple phone calls or a couple text messages to people and say, look, this is going to change my life. I've got the once a year opportunity or once in a lifetime opportunity to learn from Brian Rose of London Real and to not only build a podcast, but to build a business and get that $297. Honestly, if you can't do that, it's not worth my time for the next 8 weeks to mentor you. And that's what I call this thing called pay price to action. If you're not willing to put money up and show me you're serious, I'm not willing to give you my time. And Julian, you remember when we used to teach this stuff for free, right? And what happened? Everyone was excited in the first week. Everyone was excited in the second week. Do you know how many people actually finished the course? I think it was 0. Because when it gets hard, when it gets to the point where you're getting nervous before the guest shows up or you get worried about what people are going to think, I get you to the next level. And so when you pay that price to action, I know you're going to stick with the program. And so by charging you a significant amount of money, I guarantee you're going to be successful. And the successful graduates of my Broadcast Yourself course and my Business Accelerator course are all the ones that paid the price to action. And that's what made it happen. So to answer that question, $297 gets you in the door. That is an absolute bargain. Again, with the money back guarantee, all of you should be pulling the trigger right now before this thing closes. Yes.
Gonna hit that gong. That is our man in the Philippines, Vivencio. He has pulled the trigger.
Vivencio pulled the trigger. Now, I love seeing Vivencio on these live calls. Again, I see all these people live when I do these keynote calls on Tuesday, and I see Vivencio there. He's been an amazing student in the Business Accelerator. And again, this is a guy who's already spending time on one of our accelerator courses, but he knows the value inside London Real. Like, you know, it's a transformative experience. He's in there fighting his resistance every single day. He's going to soon be having cash into his bank account from the Business Accelerator, and now you're going to have a podcast course yourself. Again, he's going to be busy, and he still pulled the trigger. People always talk about being busy, too busy to do this. The truth is most people are busy doing silly things, right? Checking social media, worried about things that don't matter. Why don't you get busy building a podcast, building an audience, building a business that can change the fortune of your family, that could change the course of your life, that could get you to travel the world? That's what we're talking about here. A podcast can do things you never expected because it connects you with people that will literally change the course of your life and the fabric. So really important. Uh-oh. Starting to come in here.
That is Frank Xavier in Germany.
Frank Xavier in Germany. We have a huge German contingency here, people who really get what we're talking about, and they can see this accountability process because, again, I'm with you 16 live calls, right? We are giving you assignments every week, and it means you are no longer able to procrastinate, and you can't give yourself a lot of excuses that you've given yourself in the past. The truth is, in 8 weeks, you'll have 8 episodes, period. You'll be connecting with influencers, and you'll know how to turn that into a real business. So Frank gets it. And folks, this is the time to pull this trigger. Again, we always sell this course out because we don't offer it very often. And again, people are like, wow, I've seen London Real. I've seen you broadcast for 7 years. I've watched you turn it into a business. You are legitimate. And like I said earlier, and this is the truth, Julian, nobody on our level teaches this course. And nobody on our level does personal mentoring. These are live calls with me just like this. And I think later I might actually show you the live software that we use called Zoom, where I literally can see you for these calls. I've got team leaders that are former successful graduates with podcasts and with businesses that give you an extra layer. We have a graduation ceremony in London that's optional, but if you come here, we give you an entire weekend that's on us. We have dinner on us. You come to London Real, you can see the studios, how we broadcast. All of this is free, but you have to pull the trigger. And again, this network full of people, you'll be amazed at what they do. Graduation is an amazing time to start joint venture businesses with other podcasters and to really get inspired. And again, once you pull the trigger and join the academy, you're part of the London Real family pretty much forever. And you've seen all of the reels around the world, New York Reel, Vancouver Reel, Expat Reel. All of these people have started broadcasts with us, have built businesses around it. Again, there shouldn't be any question in your mind that you should pull the trigger right now, and this will literally change your life.
Rob in Canada says, Brian, we're several hours behind you in London. That means your courses are at noon or early afternoon, probably with the time of these calls. For him, how can I balance that with a full-time job and attend these sessions?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, a lot of people with full-time jobs, I mean, in the past we had a single mother with 3 kids and a full-time job on our accelerator courses. We have to choose one point in time where we do our live calls. So we choose Tuesday at 7 o'clock London time and Sunday at 7 o'clock London time. We broadcast that 1 hour live and we record that stream and we upload it to the private Facebook group. So you have lifetime access to that video call and you can watch it anytime you want. So you can be in Canada, you can be in New Zealand, you can be Australia. You can watch that anytime you want, and that's really, really important. But we always do that broadcast at that time. I really like everyone to be there because it's a massive point of accountability. You can interact. I talk to you. I give you feedback on what's happening. But if you can't, you can watch it later. I've even had students that had to miss a week or two. You have lifetime access to all of the live calls, to all of the live video modules, to all of the workbooks, to the network. If we change this course in the future, you have access to that as well. All of that is yours. You can lock that in for $297 right now, and you've got the mentorship. And who is that?
That is Anthony Wood.
Anthony Wood, pulling the trigger, yeah? Anthony, you just done something that a lot of people are still thinking about right now. But honestly, when I had you close your eyes earlier, May of 2019, just think about your bank balance with an extra, 100,000 on there. Just think about doing that by doing something you love to do, podcasting. Imagine hanging out with people like Tim Ferriss or Dorian Yates or Elliot Hulse or Ido Portal, all these people I have. I'm telling you, it's a game changer in life. Not to mention, imagine having people stop you on the streets and in airports and say, hey, thank you so much for doing that thing you did. It literally changed the life of my life. And that's what was happening to me and Elliot Hulse yesterday. And it's because we started broadcasting. It's because we fought all this resistance. And right now, Julian, I know people are watching this right now and they're thinking, yeah, Brian, but I can't do it. Nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody wants my ideas. When I did this 7 years ago, I thought the same thing. I was never an extrovert. I was a former banker, engineer, right? I never spoken on camera. I was scared, but I went for it. I said, you know what? I'm just going to try this. I didn't have me as a mentor. I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't know how to turn it into a business. If I had this information, Julian, we could have shaved years off of our journey. So I'm just saying it's right there and anyone can do it. I believe my 14-year-old daughter, Gabby, could start her own podcast and turn it into a business. I know she could. I believe my 71-year-old mother could start a podcast and turn it into a business. I believe my 49-year-old brother in Switzerland could start a podcast and turn it into a business. Anyone can do this. I believe my young sons, when they turn 6 and 7 years old, are going to start a podcast and turn it into a business. Anybody can do this. So put your self-doubt, put all of your nervousness and anxiety, check it to the side, take a big deep breath, click on the link, pull out the credit card and put in those 16 digits and trust me and trust this process because we can do it together. And once you get on these accountability programs and we're all on these calls together, you'll see people just like you that are struggling from anxiety and self-doubt. And some people struggle just to be on the live call. They're so nervous. These people at the end are broadcasting like champions or having incredible interactions with humans. Trust me on this. Pull the trigger and join Broadcast Yourself.
That is, Oliver Freer in Australia.
Wow,
He's also on the
Australia. So he's going to be at 3 and 4 in the morning logging into these live calls. And I've seen these people in Tokyo and Hong Kong and Singapore and New Zealand, Australia. I mean, we've graduated thousands of students from our courses. Literally, they're there in the morning wiping their eyes and they're like, look, Brian, for the next 8 weeks, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to make this happen. So if you're in Canada, there's no excuse. If you're anywhere else, there's no excuse. These people are getting up early in the morning because they know this is literally a pivotal moment in their life where they can go this way, which means continually working at this job that I don't really like. I'm doing stuff that's not very fulfilling. I come home at night, I watch Netflix, I maybe drink a bottle of wine, I rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. The truth is that goes one direction, down, 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 down. Try doing something that's from your passion. Try connecting with a new audience. Try reaching out to human beings who have energy that can pump it into your life. Try learning how to make your first $100,000 doing that. It's not as hard as you think it is. I can show you exactly how, but I can't show you if you don't pull the trigger. I can't show you if you let fear get in your way. And this is all about really going for it and trusting me and trusting the process. More happening here. All right.
Another grad, Jorge Soto in the US, is back in for broadcast.
Boom. All right. I'm getting your 10% discount, Jorge. So look, Business Accelerator graduate. Again, I'm already asking him for 2 live calls a week. I'm going to get him on 2 more. He's still doing this. So if you have an excuse about time, it doesn't really work here because this guy's on the Business Accelerator and he's going to do the podcast, the Broadcast Yourself as well. Again, these work beautifully in unison and you're going to be with someone who's just created a business. So again, Jorge's going to be in your network. You're going to meet him at graduation when we have graduation here in London, which is in March, and you're going to be able to connect with these people. I'm telling you, the people that pull the trigger on this course, the ones that go ahead and invest that money are the ones that are making things happen in this world. And again, I always say, that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Have you heard this expression? Jim Rohn once said this. And I will say, who are you hanging out with right now? Are they people that are starting their own podcasts? Are there people that are building businesses that are worth $100,000? Are there people that are hanging out with people like Tim Ferriss and hanging out with people like Dan Pena and Dorian Yates? No. They're probably people that are working jobs that they hate. They're probably friends and family of yours that are saying, oh, you're never going to start a podcast. You didn't pay for something online, did you? I'm offering you 150 people as a new peer group. People that are going to say, yes, you should broadcast. Yes, you can build a business. People like me that are going to say, I believe in you. That alone is worth the price of this course. To be around positive people that are going to take you to the next level. Again, Dan Pena said that to me. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. How about hanging out with me and Julian and people like Jorge and Vivencio that are pulling the trigger and making things happen in life, folks? I'm telling you, this is probably the closest you're ever going to be to starting your own podcast and to building a $100,000 business. It's right now at this instant. Are you going to be the one that sees the opportunity? Are you going to tell your grandkids one day about that one time you started your own podcast and it changed your life? Are you going to tell them about working that job you hated for most of your life and having no connection? This is the instant right now. Again, pull out the credit card, type in the 16 digits. It's about as much as you're going to spend if you go to the mall or a big night out that you forgot about the next morning. The money you will forget, the impact and the experience you will have with you for the rest of your life.
Xenia says, can I pay with Bitcoin?
Great question, and the answer is yes, of course you can. And we teach you also how to sell your business for Bitcoin as well. So we teach this inside the course. Yes, you can pay in Bitcoin. I think if you click on the link and go to the page, there's a Bitcoin payment option. It's got our QR code. You can literally bam, and you can be in seconds with Bitcoin. So we accept it, and again, we'll send you all the intro information. You know, before we keep answering questions, I wanted to play this video. And again, this is a short video compilations of testimonials of some of our students. So again, I'd like to play this video for you, and this is some people that are successful graduates of our Broadcast Yourself program. So here they are.
It's going to be 8 weeks for you to actually have a show. Man, that's perfect. That's exactly what I need.
It definitely is an electric vibe, for sure.
With this accountability group, it's great because you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for everybody else.
To me, it's motivating. Now you're pushing us to record episodes. So I had guests in, and of course we had many challenges and lots of resistance, but when you have a passion for something, you find a way to get it done.
I see fear now as a way to grow. You have to embrace fear. That I have learned in these 8 weeks, and that makes me a different person.
It was amazing. The first live call, and I saw all these people. It was so inspiring. You just feel like, okay, I'm not in this alone. We're here to support each other.
Yeah, there was a support network straight away, and I loved being able to connect with people all over the world. They were championing your work from day one.
Feeling fear, overcoming it, has brought me the same eagerness about life of when I was 17. And it's no little thing.
It's not just about the podcast, also like finding yourself again and get rid of those fears and this anxiety that's holding you back probably.
You know, this has been like getting home for me. And I know I will have close ties to the people of this group forever.
I know I would not have a podcast had I not signed up for the course. You know, being out there on iTunes, I wouldn't have had that.
Our fear is in our mind, right? It's not out there. So just pull the trigger and think what good you could give to the world.
I literally have, another gong came out of the blue. Who's that?
That is Rick Jumper in the USA.
Rick Jumper in the USA. You just pulled the trigger. Thank you, sir. You are going to join me for the next 8 weeks. I'm going to be with you every single step of the way on live video calls. I'm going to dig in. We're going to find the best micro niche. We're going to build the audience, your mission statement. We're going to weave in the product into it. I'm going to show you how to book guests. You're going to tape your first show, then your next show. We're going to be on iTunes. I'm going to show you how to launch it to the world and how to create your first digital product. That's all going to happen in 8 weeks. It's literally going to change the course of your life. So thank you for pulling the trigger. And thank you for making a bad example of everyone out there that's still kind of tourists, right? The window shoppers. That's not what it's all about. I want to invest in people that pull the trigger And I want to invest in people that pay the price to action. Because Rick, I know you're not going to quit in week 2 and week 3 because you put the money on the line. You're not going to walk away. And that means you're worth my time and energy because we're going to build something incredible at the end. I always say some of my most successful graduates, they would have never graduated unless they paid the $2,997 to do it because they would have quit. But because they paid, they got the best version of themselves. And I always talk about my example of meditation. Back in the day, I went to learn meditation. This is when I was a banker. And I learned transcendental meditation. And they said, Brian, that's going to cost $2,000 to learn meditation. I was like, that's crazy. I don't need that. I can read a book. And then I thought about it and I'm like, you know what? These people are the best in the business and I paid the $2,000. And what did I do? I showed up to every single tutorial. I went and they wanted a piece of fruit and a handkerchief and they wanted to do this and they played videos of this guy. And for 4 weeks I learned how to meditate. Guess what happened? I woke up this morning and what did I do? I meditated for 15 minutes because I paid the price to action 9 years ago. I'm still doing that today. That's what I'm offering you now. You pay this price to action and you will be podcasting as long as you want. You don't pay the money, you save the money, you try to do it for free on your own, you're never going to have that transformation. So if you meet me halfway and cut that check, if you put that credit card in, you're going to get the most out of yourself. Think about that in your life. More people are doing that. Who's that?
That is Alex Arengel in the US.
Alex Arengel, the Yanks are really stepping up here. Again, Alex, you just paid that price to action. What does that mean? First of all, it shows me you're serious. I'm willing to go all in on you. That means I'm willing to spend time. I'm willing to listen to your podcast, give you feedback, share you personal stories about me, help you, show you all of my email templates and everything. But it also means you're not going to quit on yourself. And that's why I've got these testimonials of these success stories. It's because I've charged something significant, something you can't walk away from. And if you think about the great things in life, I mean, when I was at MIT, they charged me $14,500 a year. But for that, I wasn't going to quit. And I went to school and I did the work and I went all in and it gave me the education. So think about the times you perform best in your life. It's when you've paid the price to action. You've put skin in the game. And that's why you've got those big results. And that's why I'm offering you tonight. You're going crazy here, Julian. What is that? Who's that?
Robert Fegan in Canada.
Robert Fegan in Canada. Again, pulling the trigger and paying the price to action. That's super important here. And look, I've got some testimonials here that I'm talking about, but I want to talk about a few things and a few dates that I hadn't talked about before. So again, the first call is November 27th. Folks, this happens in real time. This isn't video modules you watch at your own leisure. I make sure you show up and you do the work. I've got an accountability doc so everyone can see everyone's assignments. If you skip a week, everyone can see it, and I make sure you get the work done. For this course is over the Christmas break. We're taking 2 weeks off. So if you want to have New Year's or Christmas or go traveling, no problem, because we take 2 weeks off and we resume back in January. The last date is February 3rd. That's when all of the work is done. And graduation is March 28th to 31st. It's an optional event here in London where you can, if you fly into London, and again, we usually have a couple hundred people at this graduation. It's incredible. You get a masterclass here at London Real Studios. I bring you inside the studio. You can see exactly how we broadcast. I teach you more behind the scenes techniques about how we turn this into a business. We've got walking tours of London. We've got meetups. We've got museum tours, and we have dinner on us. All of that's paid for here in London. It's an amazing time to network, to really solidify your vision for podcasting. All of this is yours free if you pull the trigger on this course and join me. And Julian's getting a little itchy with his trigger finger. And so those are some of the dates I just wanted to talk about. So I want to go to a few more of your questions and find out. One person had a question earlier I wanted to address. They said, Brian, do I need to live in London to take this course? And the truth is no. I actually don't want you in London. Everything is done online with the Zoom software, which is an interactive video software. Everything's available. I actually prefer that you're not in London. Who's that?
Kim Goodfellow, definitely not in London. She is in New Zealand.
Kim Goodfellow in New Zealand, another person from down under who's going to be waking up early to make this happen. Kim, I appreciate you pulling the trigger. And at this rate, we're going to be sold out of this course tonight. All right. So if you want to make this happen and lock in this spot for me to personally mentor you, again, I do this once a year. And the truth is, a year from now, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. If I'm flying all around the world to interview people, I'm not going to have time to personally mentor you. This could be the last chance to get my direct teachings. And again, I can talk to you about guests I had in the studio that day, things I learned from people like Elliot Hulse and Dorian Yates and 4-star generals and people that are doing world record events. That's what I'm offering you right now. But to finish that, I don't want you in London. This is, again, an online accountability course. Our strength comes from the fact that we're in different places with different ideas, with different languages, with different cultures. We all come together to be this network that is actually unstoppable. And so I want to play for you a short video about the accountability process. This is what makes us different than anything in the business. And that's why I'm willing to put my course to the test against anything on the market. We offer the best digital products in the business, and I'll take the Pepsi challenge against anybody out there. That's why I give a 60-day money-back guarantee. If you come to my courses and do the work, you can have your money back because I know it's going to transform your life. It's because I hold you accountable to do the things you don't want to do to have the success, the business, the money that you want. And this is a little more about the accountability process inside the London Real Academy. I believe in action and accountability. Folks, we pulled the trigger here every single day on this course.
It was tough, but that was really the reason why I signed up for it, because I knew that it was going to be held accountable.
I need you getting uncomfortable every day. If you go a day where you're not uncomfortable, you did something wrong.
You kind of really forced me into it, big resistance, overcame it. Yeah, I was just like overwhelmed with the really positive response I had from everybody, so really glad I did it.
The accountability doc is your own personal BS detector. So force yourself to take action and be held accountable. If it's not in the doc, it never happens.
I need a coach to push me further, so it was good for me. It helped me out a lot. Your messages, you're tough, man. Those messages, but they really did help me out. I honestly recommend this. It's been a great experience.
And guess what? You take extreme ownership of that doc. If it's red, it's your fault.
I think that's the biggest lesson I learned. I myself, I am responsible for everything that happens in my life. And I hadn't had that before. That's a really, really big step forward. I see fear now as a way to grow.
The accountability is going to continue, and that's another thing that I love about this. And you're going to fulfill the vision that you had for this right at the beginning. So that for me is really important.
And that is what makes London Real Academy different than anything out there, is this accountability process. I want to see your results in real time, and if you don't do it, I'm literally going to hunt you down and find you. Who's that?
Apanav. He is currently traveling in Thailand, and he has pulled the trigger again.
So Apanav's traveling in Thailand. Again, a lot of you would have used that as an excuse not to buy, right? We've heard them all, right, Julian? And so again, there's something called resistance, and it's one of the things we teach in all of the courses in the Accelerator, and it's this. Whenever you go to do something great, like start a podcast or start a business or learn how to publicly speak, you always encounter something called resistance, which is all the little excuses you give in your head. So some people would say, oh, I'm traveling right now, or I just had a baby, or it's cold out, or I've got a lot of Christmas parties to attend. But that is just showing you that you got to push through that and make it happen. So thank you so much for pulling the trigger on that.
He's on the BizAc, he's a tribe member, he's traveling in Thailand.
Still made it happen, right? And again, I've had people that have told me, oh, I'm in Buenos Aires and the currency is a problem, the peso. I had someone in Mexico say this, I had someone in Thailand, and I said, look, stop with the excuses. It's $297 US. If you can't make that happen to get world-class mentorship to a podcast that can make you $100,000, you're lying to me. And usually within a couple hours, they come back and they pull the trigger. So don't give me your currency excuses. Who's that?
Siobhan Hudson in the US.
Siobhan Hudson, looks like we got the Yanks in full force right now. And so quickly, that video about accountability, I get you through all that procrastination. And the truth is, folks, you can't do it on your own. You've probably thought about having a podcast for a year now, 2 years. What's stopping you? You could literally record one right now on your iPhone and upload it. What's stopping you? It's the resistance. You need someone like me who's going to make sure you don't procrastinate, who's got the blueprint, who's got the experience, and who has gotten thousands of students through this program. That's what I'm going to make you do. It's the accountability that makes us different from the rest. And let me go back to Mr. Bales, who's having way too much fun gonging here. At this rate, we're going to have to shut this thing down, right? So look, the last few people, get in right now because we will be closing this thing down. Again, I only have so many instructors. So if you all can graduate, and a year from now, you can be my instructors and I can make this course bigger. But right now, this team leader is a great touch point on this course.
Quick question here from Roberta on YouTube. Says, Brian, I've got a full-time job. I've got 2 kids. I just don't feel like I have the time for this.
Yeah, look, this is a great question. And I had someone just like you on our accelerator last year. And again, she was a mother of 3. She had a full-time job and she was running her own side business on the side. And the truth is that, Roberta, I bet you have a really hard time connecting to people. I bet you have a really hard time having some you time, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And I know this because my wife Mariana, she's with our 2 boys all the time, and I won't lie to you, they're bouncing off the walls, right? 1 and 2 years old. I mean, it's incredible what they do. The neighbors can't handle them because of all the noise, and when they knock on my door, I'm like, okay, do you want to parent them? It's like 10x. And so what she started doing recently was she started taking a course. And Roberta, she now has 2 to 4 hours of her own time every week. And before she took the course, she said, baby, I don't have time to do this. And I said, yes, you do. You just make time. And that's exactly what she did. And she just called me up today and she said, Brian, this is so amazing. I've never had my brain work this way. I've never connected with such amazing people. And Roberta, that's why you must take this course right now. Because I promise you, the people in this network are unlike any of your peer group. Right now, you have kids and you have coworkers, and maybe you have a significant other, a boyfriend or a husband in your life, or a wife in your life. They're only going to get you so far. You need new energy, a new group of people. And the truth is, if I get you to delete that Facebook and Instagram, and we just manage your time a little bit, you will have time, and this will energize you to be a better mother and a better parent. And the one other thing I'll say is this, is I'm sure you heard this before you had kids, Roberta, that it's never a good time to have kids, right? There's always an excuse. The same is true about podcasting. The time to start is now. If I had waited and given myself excuses, I wouldn't be here today. I'm going to personally mentor you. I'm going to get you those first 8 episodes on iTunes. It's going to change your life, Roberta. It could bring you that $100,000 of revenue that could allow you to hire that nanny and do that other stuff. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Trust me, trust the process. You got the 60-day money-back guarantee. Try it all for free. If you're not convinced on February 7th or 3rd, ask for your money back. You can have it back. This is the time. If you're literally still on this masterclass with me for 2 hours, and this goes for anybody still watching, if you're here, I kind of believe in the law of attraction. You're here for a reason. You're here to pull the trigger and let me transform the course of your life. You're here for me and you to build this podcast together. Let's do this. Make it happen. Get through all that resistance and fear and anxiety. Maybe you get to win this time and not all that anxiety and self-doubt. Take a big deep breath, right? Pull out the card, put in the 16 digits. I guarantee you will never regret this decision. Who's that?
Is Constance Pearson in the US.
Constance Pearson, we got a lot of Yanks in the audience tonight. So it's great to see. I mean, look, the truth is I don't think there's anyone more qualified to teach this course. And nobody has the system that we do. And again, I'm there in the trenches every single day. Those podcast guests I talked about in the last two weeks, they actually came in here. We're also running a whole business on the other side. I can teach you all about this. Not to mention, we've got literally students right now in my accelerators. They become part of your network, and you've got team leaders, which are former grads. So again, this is this incredible critical mass of all of this possibility and ideas. It's all yours, and you can be part of this podcasting network. It's incredible.
We've got Natalia in France who's tried to make a full pay payment there. It hasn't gone through, but we can see your details. There is a live chat help box on there, but maybe even just try the payment plan because that sometimes goes through.
Yeah, look, it's a great question. So we've got the live chat box right there. If you tried to pay in full, which is great because you can get Dan Pena live at the Ritz, video kickoff call with me, which again are game changers to really kickstart your business and your podcast, pay in full. But sometimes the banks are like, what is this? It's a large amount. Lock in your spot with the payment plan. And let me just say this to anybody who's still on this call right now. Lock in your spot right now with the payment plan. $297 locks it in. We can upgrade you to pay in full and give you the bonuses. I can upgrade you to premium and you can have your own interview here at London Real Studios. You can have dinner with me at the VIP table at graduation. You can upgrade to Inner Circle and get my 6 months of mentorship after the course is over when a lot of people slide. But lock in the spot right now. Also, this course will be closing soon. So even if you're thinking about it, lock in your spot with the $297, at least hold it in. I will also give you the bonuses. Matter of fact, even if you attempt to pay for it tonight and it doesn't go through, I will hold the bonuses because I can see this here. So don't worry about it. Talk to the chat, do the minimum payment, and we'll upgrade you tomorrow.
Same goes for Monte Willemsen in Canada.
In Canada as well. Okay, good. Lock in that payment plan. At least I can hold the spot. After these are gone, I'm just going to have to say sorry. Let's talk in a year, and a year from now, like honestly, I don't know what's going to be happening. I don't know if I'll be teaching this course or if it'll be Julian. I don't know what's going to be happening with you. the truth is that now is the closest you're going to be to starting this podcast, and I want to do it.
Ian James in the UAE.
UAE, amazing. We actually have a whole host of people in the UAE. We've got someone in our business accelerator right now who's a teacher that's looking to scale her business. We've got a whole lot of expats that are in the UAE. We literally have graduates in 76 countries around the world. This makes us stronger. This gives you an audience of people. This also builds your potential customer base because a lot of your students will share your podcast out and grow your audience. And so it's an incredible thing. And I was just thinking about something with this course, seeing how there's this 2-week break over Christmas, it actually gives you an incredible opportunity that I just thought about. Some of my most compelling podcasts have been with family members. And so what I'm going to be asking my students to do is when they go home or go somewhere for Christmas break is to get that grandpa or that grandma or that great aunt or that mother or that father and sit them down and probably have a conversation like you've never had before with them in the whole life and have a podcast with them. That means no phones, no distractions, and you can ask them anything they want, things normally they wouldn't respond to. And you can say, Grandma, what was it like during the war? What was it like when you were in this struggle? What was it like getting a job in the 60s? What was it like when JFK was shot? I'm telling you, I interviewed my dad and I got to ask him what it was like growing up on the farm and what it was like to go to college and what it was like to have me as a boy. It will be one of the most meaningful things you ever do in your life, recording that one podcast. And now the course fits perfectly in there, and that can be an episode that again gets your whole podcast base to know you better. They become customers, they become fans. I'm still trying to get my mom here on the podcast. After 7 years, she's actually agreed to come. She was really nervous about it, and now we got to book it in. So Betty Rose will be coming soon. But what an amazing opportunity to just have that human connection, because that's really what this is about, folks.
Sean Langill in Canada.
Sean, again, we got some Canadians in the house. I love it. North America is a big audience for us. And I just love to see these people pulling the trigger because with each one of you, I can just feel a life change happening. And a lot of people say this, this because of the Business Accelerator and the broadcast last time we taught it. Some people feel a change right when they buy it, and they go into the private Facebook group and they start uploading their introduction videos. That's what I want you to do now. You're going to get an email with the first module. I want you to start. If you paid in full, you're going to get Dan Pena live at the Ritz. If you paid in full, you're going to get the call with me. You're going to get the 3 bonuses. But a lot of people say, wow, I feel like there's a change in me already. Because there is. Because the inner critic in you knows that you're going to not be that person anymore. The person that's been kind of living this quiet life of desperation, the persons that work in a job you hate, the person that's tired of things being the same knows that you've finally given yourself an ultimatum and said, guess what? I'm the boss now. And we're going to go do things that are a little scary. And we're going to get a little uncomfortable. But I've got Brian Rose on my side. I got London Real on my side. And now we're taking charge of our lives. And so a lot of people report a change right when they type in the 16 digits, even before the course officially starts, because they know they're going to stop making excuses. They're going to stop procrastinating, and they're going to start making change that are going to create great things in their life. So I love it. If you're feeling a surge of energy, or if you want to feel that surge of energy, get in now while the going's good. Who's that?
Well, it's Natalia in France. You made it happen, got that payment to go through.
Awesome. I love it, Natalia. We got people on the continent. Again, we got some great people in France and in Germany, and people that are really kind of pushing the envelope. And again, Natalia will be talking to you about whether you should podcast in English or French. A lot of people ask that question. I always have a specific answer based on, wait for it, the business you're going to turn this into. And again, we're going to start aligning your business interests with the podcast interests, and it's going to turn into something that's sustainable. Because if I had $1 or a pound for everybody I met who quit their podcast, if you go on iTunes right now and search for the podcast with less than 3 episodes, you're going to see them everywhere because they never were engineered properly. We're going to get yours built from the beginning in the right way, and that's really going to make the difference.
Lewis says, Brian, I'm really pumped after this masterclass, but I just don't know whether people will actually listen to me.
Okay, look, that's a really good question. A lot of people say, Brian, why do people want to listen to me? Like, what do I have to add? What do I have to bring to the party? And the truth is that when I first started podcasting, I thought I had nothing to say. I really thought I was so boring, it didn't even matter. I was a former banker. I was like an MIT graduate. I could barely talk and string 2 sentences together. And yet I still broadcast. And what did I do? I started off talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is what I did in my spare time. And who did I have on my show? my fellow Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu students. And then I had a cool guy I knew from banking, and then I reached out to somebody who I never thought would say yes, and they said yes. This is how I built my show, but I trusted the process. Imagine if I had had a mentor like me, or a roadmap, or he'd even thought about a business model, everything would have changed. The truth is, all I want you to do is connect with 1,000 true fans. That's it. Don't try to build an audience of 1 million people. Just think 1,000 people that are like me, that have my problems, that I can help. That's the people that are going to be your 1,000 true fans. You can build a business out of that. You can build a podcast out of it. Just trust me and trust the process. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get to hang out with me and a bunch of amazing people for 8 weeks. You can upload your podcast and you can have your money back. So if you're not pulling the trigger right now, that's because of your own nonsense, your own resistance and your own fear. Stop letting your fear be the boss in your life. This is an opportunity for you to pull the trigger. It's risk-free. That's why I offer the money-back guarantee. That's why I offer the payment plan, because I want you to show yourself that it's just you and your same old bullshit that's keeping you from joining this course and changing your life and joining a group of badass people from around the world, coming to London Real Studios. I'll give you a big hug, right? No kisses. And, until I get to know you better. Some people kiss me on the cheek. That's okay. And I'll show you London Real Studios. You can maybe even sit in a leather chair with me. I had someone the other day that tried to buy their way onto the show. They're like, Brian, I want to be on your show. I'm like, sorry, you don't qualify. And he's like, I'll pay you $20,000. I said, no, you can't buy your way onto the show. But I said, if you take one of my courses and you upgrade to premium and you graduate and do the work, I'll have you on my show. And I said, that's the way. So if you want to upgrade to premium, you can be on the show. And again, you can use that as a broadcast on your podcast. You can put that on YouTube. You know how easy it is to get guests on your show once you tell them you've been on London Real? So these are some of the things. But it all has to start with you pulling the trigger. Like people are doing tonight. Who's that?
That is Catherine McCallum is back in for a second round.
Okay, boom. Catherine's back in. Great to have you here, Catherine. Again, pull the trigger. Again, fight that kind of resistance and fear. And again, like I said, come here for graduation, meet me, upgrade to premium, upgrade to inner circle. We can do that later, but lock in your spot tonight. I've never seen a Broadcast Yourself course fill up this fast. I've never seen the people that have bought today. This is going to be done. It's going to be gone. So just lock in your spot now. Again, try this course out for 8 weeks. Try the mentorship. You're going to learn something. You're going to get out of your comfort zone. My ears are ringing now, Bale. Stop it.
Christian Smotherman in the U.S.
In the U.S. Wow, more Yanks are really feeling this. In America, podcasting is growing at a rate that's inconceivable because people are driving their cars everywhere. So people are constantly listening to these long-form messages. And again, it's an amazing way to build a customer. Imagine you in their ears for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour every day. I have people that join my courses. Maybe you're one of them. You've known me for years because you've been listening to my content. This is why a podcast is an incredible way to build an audience, to build a business, to build change in the world. The Americans are pulling the trigger on this, which is amazing to think. But like I said, at this point, if you haven't joined us, I got to say that's on you because this is basically a zero risk situation. If you say you don't have $297, I don't believe you because you all are 2 or 3 phone calls away from borrowing someone's card. You can text it right now. You can pay them back. So the only thing stopping you is your own nonsense. Let's push through that together. You'd be surprised the kind of person you become. Once you cross one piece of resistance, you'll say, wow, that was easy. What else can I do? Maybe I can get that promotion. Maybe I can start my business. Maybe I can do a TED Talk. Maybe I can write a book. Maybe I can start my own documentary film like I did. Maybe I can fly to Arizona and do a JV partnership with Robert Kiyosaki. That made me nervous too. But I had done all these other things. So you get into this kind of momentum of success. This is the start of your momentum tonight. Pull the trigger, join me, and start broadcasting. It's going to be incredible.
Got a few really good questions here.
Yeah.
Issa is saying, I would love to do this, but I won't have the money in my account until tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, look, I would hope this is open tomorrow, but I can't guarantee it. So that's just the truth. If you really want to lock this in, make a few phone calls and get someone's card and pay them back tomorrow is all I have to say. I never know when these things close out because Julian's hitting the gong. This thing will keep gonging until we close this off and people will still try to get in on this course. Also, there's people we can't even gong because they're buying on other platforms and via Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So we don't know when it's going to close. So again, like this is happening. Who's that?
Yemi Hassan here in the UK.
Yemi, welcome. Again, you're going to get that email right away. You're going to be dropped right into the private Facebook group. This is the group full of trigger pullers. Mm-hmm. There are people that are actually going to do podcasts and they're not talking about it in the workshop group. I love the workshop group. There's 4,000 or 5,000 people in there, but most of them are tourists and talkers. You're part of the walkers right now. So welcome to the group. And again, try to lock your spot in tonight. At least do the payment plan because we can upgrade you later. But once the spots are gone, I can't help you. But I hope it's open tomorrow, but I can't guarantee it.
Kirk says, Brian, I am based in Trinidad and Tobago, so I'll have to do a podcast based on Zoom or Skype. Does that fit into your model?
Okay, a podcast based on that. What does that mean with those?
Using it.
Oh, using it. Okay, Zoom or Skype. So yeah, look, I love the video podcast format. I also love the audio podcast, and you can do both. I recently did podcasts via Skype that were both audio and video. So yeah, definitely. I mean, we have many people around the world that do remote podcasts. In my course, I teach both. I like for you to record one in person, and I like for people to record as well. We actually use the Zoom software to record our audio. We also have that video option as well. What I really want you to do in the course, and I usually don't talk about this until once you're in the course, but honestly, what I try to get you to do is pump those broadcasts out. Because every broadcast you learn so much, and I just get you to go, go, go. And like I say, we pull the rear view mirror off the windshield of our car. We don't look behind us. We publish, next, publish, next. Once you get 4, 5, 6 episodes, you'll be amazed how comfortable you are, how good you are, how people remark how amazing you are. Plus, I'm teaching you next level techniques to reduce anxiety, to plan out your questions, to deal with difficult people, and to really get the quality of content that puts you to Tim Ferriss level, Jocko level, Joe Rogan level, London Real level. That's what's different about our show. So yes, we will be using Skype and Zoom to make it happen. Again, pull the trigger. Let's do this and let's make these recordings. Another person. Who's that?
Kirk, pulled the trigger.
Kirk pulled the trigger right there. I'm telling you, this is the opportunity. And again, if you're here and it's what? We're at 2 hours and 20 minutes we've been hanging out, right? This means something, right? You wouldn't still be here on this call. You probably watched 10s or 20 or 30 hours of London Real. You probably watched my free training. You're now here 2 hours and 20 minutes into me. If that's not a sign, then I don't know what is. The time is to pull the trigger right now. Trust me and trust the process. It might be scary for you right now even to be on a video call with lots of people. I've had a lot of my students start that way. That's okay. I'm here to get you through that resistance, and you're going to get so much better, so much faster. My first few episodes of London Real, my first 50 episodes of London Real, look at me. I'm over there nervous. I barely even talk. I'm just asking interesting questions, and I'm interested. That was good enough for people to watch my show because they felt I had a great mission and I was asking great questions. Do that, but make sure you broadcast. I'm telling you, pull the trigger on this. Podcasting is a way of growing as a human being. It's a way of networking out to amazing people. It's a way of building a business. But more, it's important. It's about leaving an impact on this world and creating a legacy. And it's really about getting invited to the cool stuff. You know, to be called by Robert Kiyosaki and say, Brian, I want you to be part of this launch, to get to hang out with this legendary guy and be a part of this amazing multimedia production. I mean, honestly, I probably would have paid him to do that. Don't tell him. I would have. To be able to go to Israel and hang out with Ido Portal, the movement coach of Conor McGregor, right before his fight with Mayweather, to be able to go down to Spain and train with Dorian Yates, 6-time Mr. Olympia, to be able to train legs with him, that all happened because of one reason. I pulled the trigger, just like you can right now, and started my own podcast.
Omar in Canada.
Omar in Canada, pulling the trigger. And the truth is, Omar, it starts with a podcast. What happens next? Maybe you make a documentary feature film, right? Maybe you start a business. Maybe you write a best-selling book. Maybe you do a TED Talk, right? How did I start my TED Talk? Podcast came first. My first talk in front of a company, it's still online. It was called my pre-TED Talk. I was nervous to speak to 20 people at their lunch break at some company here in Shoreditch. They were eating tuna sandwiches and I was trying to talk to them at the same time, and I was nervous. What happened 6 months later? I did a TED Talk that's been watched 350,000 times. It's all baby steps. This is one of your baby steps to becoming a great human being and having a great experience in life. Well, who's that?
David Duhame in Canada as well.
David Duhame, I love it. This is one thing that starts your journey. Again, the podcast was how I started my journey. What happened next? TED Talk. The book is coming next year, right? All of these connections with people, the business, the movies, the game-changing experiences, the being invited to events all around the world, right? I was invited to a mastermind event in California where I met so many guests that became pivotal people on London Real, including Dan Dapani and Esther Perel. They all started because I started podcasting. So again, this is a one small step to take you to a whole next level in life. But if you don't pull the trigger tonight, what's going to happen, right? What's going to happen? Tomorrow, you're going to go back to the same belief patterns. The 5 people you spend the most time with, and these could be family and friends, are going to say the same things to you, right? Oh, you're working a job you probably don't like. It's maybe exhausting. You're watching Netflix. You're probably drinking too much. You're eating bad foods. You're in a repetitive pattern that, guess what, gets worse and worse the older you get. Unless you pattern interrupt that with something different, everything's going to be the same. Who's that?
Peter Crowfoot in the US.
Peter Crowfoot in the US. You need something to interrupt that pattern. And I'm saying this one thing, and I'm gonna say this with 100% confidence. This is the best chance you're gonna have in the next 2 months, maybe the next 12 months, to materially change the course of your life. Again, I'm gonna say that. Right now in this moment, you're 16 digits away on your card to materially changing the course of your life in the next 12 months, maybe even longer. Because when you get in with me, you've got a new peer group of not 5 people who are saying, oh, I don't think you can spend a podcast. I don't think you should do that. Maybe you shouldn't spend money online. To a group of 150 people that say, not only do we want you to start a podcast, we expect you to do it, and we want to build a business, and we're not going to sleep until you're successful. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about reaching out to influencers, about building an audience, about building a business. You're literally $297, which again, it's a day shopping. It's actually probably an hour shopping for most people. It's a dinner out. It's a round of drinks. You're that much away from taking a course that will literally take your life in a new direction. I can't imagine my life without London Real.
Good question here from Alexander. He says, is this right for me even if I'm not sure about podcasting? To be honest, this was the first time I got in touch with this idea today.
Yeah, it's a great question. And in my first video tutorial, I said this one thing about podcasting. The truth is your passions change in life, right? I started off, I was passionate about jiu-jitsu. Later, I became passionate about breakdancing. This year, I did an Ironman and did a 100% plant-based diet. Guess what the podcast did? It allowed me to explore my passions in real time. So back then, I had Roger Gracie on, the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt in the world, right? Later, I had Tim Ferriss on, one of my idols. This year, I ran an Ironman race, right? And I had some of the greatest vegan athletes in the world. The podcast allowed me to follow my passions and connect with the most amazing people in the world. So if you're thinking, I'm not sure if the podcast is right for me, I'm saying the podcast is just a means to pursue and discover your passions, to connect with people that'll change your life forever, to build a business. A lot of people start this course and have no idea what they want to podcast about. They're not even sure they want to do it, but they know it's something that will change them in a positive way. And that's why I ask them to do it. The same is true for the Business Accelerator. Many people start that without even an idea. They don't even know, but they know that this is a way to change their life and to make that first $100,000. So I actually think this is more for you if you don't know exactly what you want to do, because it's going to get you out of your comfort zone. It's going to make you a better communicator. We're shutting this thing down, Bale. Seriously, who's that?
Kotso Cabell in the US.
Okay, all right. I think we're probably limited down to single digits left. So if you want to do this, pull the trigger now. We're going to have to wrap this up soon. Again, this is the time to do something to change your life. And I've actually got a video here talking a bit more about the community of people and what it's like to be in this group. It's really hard to explain. This is the hardest part to show people, because I can show you London Real. I can show you my journey. I can show you what it's like to hang out with people. I can show you what it's like to make millions of dollars. But the network of people in this group, you will become so close to all these random names I just said. They don't mean anything to you now, but once you pull the trigger and join them, these people will become closer to you than some of your friends and family, because you will go with them this transformative experience. You're going to sweat and cry and bleed and laugh together. And at the end of it, they're going to be this incredible network. And here's a little bit more information about what it's like to be part of this incredible community.
It was amazing. The first live call, and I saw all these people. It was so inspiring to think, okay, there's people around the world that want to do exactly the same thing as me, and we're going to be learning this together. We're in this together.
70 people around the world.
That was phenomenal, because from literally strangers to within a couple of weeks, it became like a little family. And I loved being able to connect with people all over the world. They were championing your work from day one.
When you get to that point where everybody's helping each other, everybody's holding each other accountable, is that you can do so much more than you ever thought. The result of the work is fantastic.
It was just so so warm right at the beginning. It felt like people are really, even though they had their own issues and struggling with maybe the tasks, but everyone, it felt like are really ready to help each other. So it kind of felt pretty much right away as a sort of a family and very close. Well, family is the right word, I think.
The program is interesting because it's this nice mix of digital products that you can go back to anytime. The live calls, the Facebook messaging in the community, now real life interaction. So it's this really multi-dimensional experience. Frankly, it's just delightful.
You're going to meet this vibrant, incredible community. And when you meet these people, they are going to make your passion for podcasting and starting a business out of it come more alive. You're actually going to have these people on your podcast, and they're going to have you on theirs, and you're going to grow your audience virally. You're going to see London Real Studios, you're going to smell the leather, and you're going to get so inspired by what we built, it's going to take you on a brand new trajectory. And that graduation ticket is free. Again, dinner on us, Masterclass at London Real Studios, walking tours of London, museum tours, connection opportunities is all yours, and the community you have for life. These people will literally change who you are, the businesses, they'll become your investors, your business partners. I still remember, who's that?
Alexander Burrow in Germany.
Germany, I love it. You know, I always tell the story of Michael Skye and John McMahon, who were accelerator graduates. They came to London, and at 2 in the morning in King's Cross, they had like a kebab, right? Which is where you go after you've been out all night. And during that sharing of the kebab, they came up with a business idea. And John McMahon emailed me a few months ago, and he said, Brian, we just did a $1.6 million launch. Now, it took them 14 months from that graduation, but they just did a $1.6 million launch. And you know what he said after that? He said, Brian, I'm going to double that by year end. That happened during graduation. All right, so you see this community, and you hear these names. I'm telling you, listen to these names, because these people are going to become really close to you. They're going to inspire people. And again, these people are unlike the 5 people that are close to you right now, because guess what? These people don't give excuses. They don't talk the talk. They walk the walk. They pull the trigger. They go into the fear. They do difficult things, and that's why they're getting to the next level. Guess what? This is your new peer group for the next 8 weeks, plus you get me as well. This is how you get to the next level. It's all about peer group, and that's what this community is all about.
We have a question here from Dre, who says, it all sounds great, I'm just not sure if it's worth the investment.
Okay, so I get this question a lot. People say, wow, Brian, $2,997 is a lot of money. For some people, $297 a month is a lot of money. And it's really funny because I had this conversation with Robert Kiyosaki about 2 weeks ago in Arizona. And you know, I was talking to him, and he said, Brian, he said, when I was young, I had a rich dad and a poor dad, right? And he had these 2 fathers in Hawaii. One was his real dad, which was the poor dad, and one was his best friend's dad, who he called his rich dad. And they both had really different perspectives on money. And it's interesting because his poor dad was actually a PhD who was the head of education in Hawaii, a really educated man, and yet he had a poor man's mentality. And guess what would happen when something would come up in the household? His real mother and father, whenever they would see something that cost money, they would say, oh, I can't afford that. That was their first reaction. And his rich dad taught Robert Kiyosaki something different. He said a wealthy person looks at an opportunity or something investing, and they say to themselves, how can I afford it? And it's that one shift in mentality that turns a poor person into a rich person. Turns someone then constantly paying the bills and struggling with money to someone who builds wealth, which is what you do when you build a podcast and a business. How can I afford this? And so when people look at this program and say, oh, $297 or $2,997, they say, how can I afford this opportunity that will change my life and get me $100,000? That's how a rich person thinks. If you're still thinking to yourself, oh, I can't afford this, you're thinking like a poor person. And think about your life. Think how a poor person lives, right? Constantly lacking money, constantly can't afford the bills, because you're looking at everything as an expense. You're not looking at it as an investment in your future. So I'm asking you right now, how can you afford not to make this investment? How can you not afford to make $100,000 in 6 months? Literally, what would you pay right now to make $100,000 in 6 months? You'd probably pay around $100,000 to guarantee it. So how can you afford not to take this opportunity? And for $297 to lock your spot in and a money-back guarantee, Robert Kiyosaki would say right now, Brian, how can they afford not to do this? Of all the opportunities that happen in your life, think about all the things that you've done in your life. This is that one point where on your deathbed or your grandkids will say, Grandma and Grandpa, how could you not afford to learn how to podcast with Brian Rose back in 2018? And you'll say, you don't have an answer. And so that's the way that a rich person looks at the world and a poor person. Which are the way you look at the world? I used to look at it in a poor person mentality. And I remember when I was 18 years old, I applied to a bunch of colleges and I got into MIT. And I used to ride around in my 1968 Ford Mustang. I bought it for $1,200. I worked a whole summer job. And I used to carry a Ziploc bag full of coins in the glove box. And it was my gas money, right? Because I didn't have any money. And I used to get like $6 of gas, and then it would go empty, and I would get like $8 of the gas, and it was all my coins in my drawer. And I got into MIT, and the first year tuition bill came, and it was $14,500. And I was like, I can't afford to go to MIT, right? And I was like, I can't. I live in San Diego. I got to go there. There's no way. And so I had a choice right there, right? Rich dad, poor dad. And the poor dad in me said, I can't afford it. But then there was a little bit of a rich man in there somewhere. And he said, but how can you afford it? Because this could be an investment in your future. And so I went and I spoke to my dad and I spoke to my mom and I called up my grandparents and I called up the government and I borrowed money and I made that first payment of $14,500. And now in retrospect, that investment is probably paid off 100 or 1,000x. It probably made millions of dollars having that education, hanging out with that high performance peer group like you get in here, you know, knowing that you can do something and pulling the trigger and having a success and then having another success and having another success. Imagine if I had decided to stay and go to San Diego State University. Imagine if you decide not to take this course and just go back to your normal life after you've glimpsed at something you could have been. There's no way I would have strung together a series of successes, but I went into the resistance and I said, how can I afford this? And I made it happen, and that's where I am today. And so you can act like a poor dad tonight, or you can act like a rich dad. How can you afford it? I know you can. You can make a couple phone calls and you can make it happen. You can, who's that?
Ihichi here in the UK, full pace. We'll get those bonuses as well.
Get you that bonus of Dan Pena live at the Ritz. And again, that's amazing in my video kickoff call. Again, you just asked yourself, how can I afford this? Think about that in your life. It's a whole nother way. Think about that in the world and think about, wow, there's all these opportunities out there. And if I see them as costs, I'm going to miss out. And the truth is most of us spend money on stupid things. If you look at your bank balance, what did you buy? The article of clothing you don't buy, the dinner out that's been digested, what a Christmas present for someone who doesn't even care. These things don't matter. How can you afford to make an investment in learnings that's going to change your life, that can 10x or 100x from a trusted source like me and a whole program? That's what I would ask you tonight. So.
Still plenty of questions here. I know earlier you mentioned about the Zoom software though. Do you want to jump to that?
Yeah, I think we're going to need to do that. So look, we have a software called Zoom, which is something I use to interact with my students, and I literally teach them live. I do live calls with them. I teach them all about our broadcast IP, and it's really, really important. And I'd like to show you what this call is all about. So I think we've got a link here, which is londonreal.tv/Zoom. And again, you can see the software that I use. And I'm actually going to jump over here to my iPad, and I'm just going to answer those questions for you. Before I do that, I wanted to share with you a video that shows you what it's like to come here for London Real graduation. Again, it's in March. You can come here and you can literally see everything behind the scenes. I'll show you the microphones we use. I'll show you the cameras. You can see all of the pictures of the former guests. You can hang out with all of the students. I'll do a masterclass. Again, dinner is on us. Drinks are on us. Walking tour of London is on us. All the network and all of that stuff is free. All you have to do is get here. And again, people will literally fly from 6 continents around the world. It's amazing energy. And this is a little more about what that graduation is like.
Like I was a mess, falling apart. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I pulled the trigger and signed up. I had to.
This course has just changed everything for me.
Who knows what life will look like in a year from now for each of us.
All right, London Reelers, welcome to London. Let me hear some roar here. Tonight, I'm pumped. We got the Midnight Run folks with us. We got glow sticks, we got music.
This is the first time we've ever seen each other in 3D.
The first live call, and I saw all these people. It was so inspiring.
I loved being able to connect with people all over the world.
They're my family. They have become my family. We're all extensions of each other.
Everybody's helping each other. Everybody's holding each other accountable. You can do so much more than you ever thought.
Just now, like, my team asked me, how do you feel? And I said, I feel home. This is home for me.
What's beautiful about this process is if I'd had a way out, I'd have got out. But I couldn't let that lot down. I couldn't let my team down.
Do not stop, because this is just the beginning right now.
Please stay vulnerable. When you hit rock bottom, reach out. You have all the support you need. Thank you.
So I just want you to congratulate yourselves for all the hard work you put in, for making it to London, for connecting with everyone here. I'm getting excited about graduation just watching that video. It is like the funnest time here. Again, we've got people from all around the world, and it's just the energy. It's just amazing because you're surrounded by a group of people that want to make a difference in the world, that have gone into their fears, that have faced their demons, that have put themselves out there on video and on audio. That's a challenging thing, but those wins, they change your character. They build your self-esteem. I'm telling you, I've had people that have said, what's changed about you? Have you lost weight? You seem more excited about life, more confident. And again, you know, sometimes people are just interviewing family members and people they know, and it just starts establishing these rapports, and things go places they never ever expected. And again, I still can't overestimate the power of just having a real conversation that's been taped. You know, people inside the course are like, wow, Brian, I haven't felt that kind of human connection in so long. And it's really a special thing. So I'm excited about this. I would love for everyone to come join us on this Zoom software. Again, you can see me hanging out. I'm going to go to my iPad right now, so londonreal.tv/Zoom. And again, it's this free software, and it's what I interact with. It's how we teach. It's what makes me different from everyone else. I'm real. People get there and like, oh my gosh, Brian, I didn't know you actually. This is what I do. That's what makes London Real Academy different than anything else out there, because it's interactive and I'm personally mentoring you. But again, I'm only spending time with people that pay the price to action. You have to have skin in the game. I have to know you're not going to walk away from me. Because if I spend 2 or 3 weeks working on your idea and your project and you disappear, it's a waste of my time. And the truth is, I don't need your money. I really don't need your money. What I need is I need your testimonial and your transformation so you can change the world. That's why I'm in this business. I want to put your video out for future graduates. And what I need though is when you put the money in, you put the pay price to action and you put skin in the game, because it's going to get you to do the things you don't want to do to make the most incredible podcast and business in the world. And that's really what it's all about. So come join me on londonreal.tv/Zoom. And before we go over to that call, I just want to leave you, with a few final thoughts. We're 2 hours and 40 minutes into this broadcast. And first of all, I hope you can see that when I go into something, I'm very serious about this. When I go and teach, I go all in because I know how much this changed my life. And if you're still here with me after 2 hours and 40 minutes, I think that's a sign. I think that's a sign that you and I are supposed to continue this journey together. The only thing stopping you are these self-doubts and these fears. But what does fear actually stand for? F-E-A-R. That, in my book, means false expectations appearing real. There are these phantoms in your life that you put out to keep you playing this small little existence, to live this quiet life of desperation. And it's been holding you back for months or for years. But breaking out of that and going out and broadcasting yourself and joining the family at London Real and having me mentor you, it's going to take you on a whole new journey. But now it's up to you. But if you're watching me, I think we're destined to do some great things together. So take a big deep breath, click on that link, pull out that plastic and make that first payment. And I guarantee you're going to start on an adventure that's going to change your life forever. We're going to build something amazing. You're going to feel more connected. You're going to be more human than you felt in so long. I believe that podcasting is actually the fountain of youth. And I've said this before. And we're then going to build a business out of it, and we're going to change everything about you. So that's what I would say last. If you're with me right now, pull the trigger. I promise you, I will mentor you. I will help build this business, and it'll be the greatest decision you ever make in your life. So come join me right now on londonreal.tv/Zoom. And I just want to leave you with a final video that's all about podcasting, and the journey that you can take with me. Thank you so much.
If you want to join an elite group of people who are living their passion, impacting millions, and connecting with the most inspiring people on the planet, this video is for you. Here's what it's all about. Imagine strolling into your own podcast studio and seeing a champion fighter, self-made billionaire, or Grammy winner you've admired since you were 15 waiting to talk to you. As you shake his hand, he says, "Ask me anything. I'm an open book." You spend the next 2 hours engrossed in a life-changing conversation. You hear stories and insights he's never shared before. It's so powerful, you can feel yourself absorbing his lessons on a deep level. After he leaves, all you can think is, "I can't believe that just happened." To decompress, you sit down to check your email. The first message is a 2-page story from a man you've never met. He tells you about how he felt lost and frustrated for years. Then he found your podcast, and it gave him direction and turned his life around. The next 15 are from fans who just wanted to say thank you and I love your show. By 3 p.m., you head home to spend time with friends and family. You no longer work 9 to 5 because your show has grown into a 7-figure business that allows you to control your hours and income. If you want this to be your everyday life, now is your chance. In a few minutes, you're going to discover how to create a successful, world-class podcast from scratch using our Broadcast Yourself course. This program is based off what I learned building a show from nothing to over 80 million audio downloads and over 200,000 YouTube subscribers. All while turning this hobby, which began in the bedroom of my flat, into a 7-figure lifestyle business. One that's allowed me to spend my days having inspiring conversations with amazing people, including Wyclef Jean, Tim Ferriss, Dorian Yates, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and more. The course shows you how to create a quality show you're proud of. It teaches you how to stand out, build a tribe of loyal listeners, and land high-level guests. You'll even discover how to turn your show into a lucrative business, so you can quit your job and build your own 7-figure media empire. And you don't need any fancy equipment or any special background to get started. For years, people like you from all over the world have used podcasting to transform their lives. Like Jabal, who felt like he was drifting along without purpose or direction. He always wanted to have a show, but never did anything about it. After watching London Real, he thought, I want to have a show like that, but do it my way and talk about the things I want to talk about. He didn't give in to excuses like, I don't know anything about broadcasting or I don't have the right equipment. Instead, he whipped out his smartphone and recorded his very first episode. That video only got a few views. Now, on episode 7, Jabal Cafe gets over 1,000 views. But more important than the audience, it's ignited a fire and drive deep inside of him. He's doing something he's excited about and has a clear sense of purpose. Then there's Mike and Andy Zaremba of Vancouver Real. These were regular guys with normal jobs who wanted something more. Years ago, they heard me on the Joe Rogan Experience challenge listeners to start their own show. They liked the idea of having a platform to talk about issues that were important to them. So they gave it a shot and started Vancouver Real. Today, they've released over 100 episodes and are building a mini media empire with live workshops and speaking events for the community. They're making a positive impact on thousands of lives and get to spend their time talking with amazing people, including Dave Asprey, Graham Hancock, Gabor Mate, and dozens more. And then there's Olive, founder of New York Real. By her own admission, Olive used to be self-indulgent and often felt sad, especially during the cold winters in New York City. Starting a show gave her something positive to focus on. It was an outlet to express herself, follow her passion, and create something she was proud of. It also gave her a platform to connect with incredible people, including best-selling author James Altucher, who was a guest on her show. When I asked what impact hosting a show had on her life, She told me that she used to feel sad and cry all the time. But after doing the show, she remarked, "I can't remember the last time I was depressed." Having a podcast gives you an outlet to find yourself, express yourself, and create something meaningful. It keeps you moving and doing what you love, which fights off negativity and loneliness. On top of that, it gives you a platform to connect with amazing people and form deep relationships with those who inspire you. A platform to impact millions with your ideas and build a tribe of intelligent people who support you and push you to grow. A platform to launch a 6 or 7-figure lifestyle business so you get paid to do what you love, be your own boss, and live on your own terms. As a result, hosting a podcast can transform your life more than 1,000 self-help books or workshops. When you have an awesome show, you no longer feel like you're sitting on the sidelines, watching other people live exciting lives, thinking there must be something wrong with you because you haven't figured it out yet. You're no longer forced to be a cog in someone else's machine, punching the clock each day at a job that doesn't inspire you, doing work you don't care about, only to lay in bed at night wondering, what's it all for? And you no longer have those days where you wake up feeling like crap, thinking to yourself, I haven't done anything with my life. Instead, you feel excited to create something you're passionate about, fulfilled by the impact you're making and proud of the legacy you're leaving behind. I know it's true because it's the transformation I went through. Before deciding to broadcast myself, my life was on autopilot. I'd come home from work to an empty house, plop on the couch, watch Mad Men, and go to sleep. Then do it all over again. On payday, I'd see the number in my bank account get bigger, but I'd look at it and think, so what? What's this all for? It felt as if I was waiting for something to happen, for some aha moment where I'd say, this is what I'm meant to do with my life. But it never came. Around that time, I stumbled across the Joe Rogan Experience. I thought, I want to do a show like this. So I began to interview people around town I thought were interesting. At first, friends thought I was crazy, but after 6 years, the show became a global phenomenon. Now, I get to make a real positive impact on millions of lives, which has led to a deep sense of purpose and meaning. I've gone from being a loner to being surrounded by amazing people. I feel more connected than ever. At the same time, I've turned this hobby into a 7-figure media company, one that lets me control my hours, live on my terms, and do work I truly believe in. Now, if you want a show as big or bigger than mine, there's never been a better time to start. For 2 reasons. First, there's never been more demand for quality content. According to Edison Research, the number of people who listen to podcasts has doubled in recent years. Today, an estimated 67 million people listen to podcasts every month, and that's only in America. That's 24% of the US population. So this number could double or triple over the next few years. And remember, you don't need to be as big as Joe Rogan to be successful. If only one person in 1 million like your show, you have 7,000 fans. That's more than enough to make an impact, change lives, and even build your own successful business. One that lets you quit your job and start making a great living doing what you're passionate about. The second reason is you can learn from the people who came before you and shave years off your learning curve. Back when I started, there was no step-by-step roadmap on how to build a successful podcast from scratch. Sure, there were blogs and courses out there, but the ones I looked at just overloaded me with information and left me to figure it out for myself. Not only that, they skipped over the 2 most critical steps in creating a high-quality show. The first is teaching you how to mix your passions with what listeners are dying to hear. When you do that, your show is something you're excited to do, and people are eager to hear it from day one. The second is how to create a world-class interview so you can have riveting conversations bursting with inspiring stories and life-changing ideas. If you feel you have nothing unique or insightful to share, like I did, this is a game changer. Asking the right questions and getting guests to open up makes for a compelling show. It keeps listeners coming back and takes hardly any effort on your part. Most of the material out there just focuses on what microphones or software to use. And while that's important, it's only a tiny piece of the puzzle. Nobody shows you how to turn your passion into a show that stands out, or land high-level guests when you're just starting, or run a world-class interview that's a cut above what's out there, where people open up and share their deepest fears, struggles, and dreams. For years, people have asked me for help on how to do all those things and more. So I decided to put my knowledge into a simple, step-by-step system you can use to have the success I've had in a fraction of the time. The result is our everything included course called Broadcast Yourself, which I'll introduce to you now. This is an 8-week online course where I guide you step by step to find your passion and turn it into a successful, world-class podcast. It has hours of videos showing you how to launch an awesome podcast from scratch and turn it into a 7-figure media empire. In this course, you'll learn how to find the perfect theme for you, land quality guests, build a loyal following, run a world-class interview, and much, much more. Plus, you'll have multiple calls per week with my staff and me to keep you on track and hold you accountable. Let's take a quick peek at what's in the program. Module 1 is where you find your podcast idea. This is all about finding that one perfect theme that blends your interests with what people are dying to hear. First, we'll help you tap into a deeper drive and motivation by helping you find your podcasting why. This is your core reason for starting that keeps you inspired, so your show is fun and not a chore. Next, I'll guide you through the 3 steps in my podcast idea generation process. Here you'll find out what you're passionate about and how to blend your interests to create a show that's new and compelling. Finally, we'll build your mini audience. We'll show you how to test your show on a small audience so you'll know what's working and what to throw out. This will help you get traction months or years faster than most podcasts. Once you have a clear direction, you can move on to Module 2, Test Your Podcast. At Google, they developed a process for getting real-world validation for their ideas in 1 week. We adapted it at London Real and even created a method for applying it to podcasting, so you can be certain your podcast will resonate before you lift a finger to build it. Most podcast hosts spend a year or more trying to find out what people want to hear. But with this process we created, you can validate your idea and do it in less than a week. We'll also show you how to survey the competitive landscape and make your show competition-proof. You'll see how to carve a niche for yourself that you can dominate so you stand out from the crowd starting on day 1. We'll also cover your 1,000 True Fans roadmap, so you can align your interests with the gaping holes in the market and generate your 1,000 true fans as fast as possible through subcultures you already belong to. Next is Module 3, Build Your Platform. This is where you start creating the show itself. We'll show you the perfect microphone and software for you based on your goals and budget, along with the best places to go for web hosting and artwork, so you can avoid complex or expensive tools that you simply don't need. We'll even hook you up with tutorials on how to use your equipment, so you won't have to deal with the headache of figuring out all the tech stuff. Then we'll show you how to name your podcasts so it stands out, sticks in people's brains, and is a reflection of you. After that, you'll be ready for Module 4, Book Your Guests. This is where you stay booked with a stream of high-level guests you're eager to talk to. Here, you'll learn the 5 places to find great guests and how to mine sites like iTunes and Amazon to find high-level people who would love to be interviewed by you. Then, we'll give you word-for-word email templates for reaching out and getting them to be on your show. These are the same templates I used to land guests like 6-time Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates back when I only had a few listeners. We'll even show you how to nurture relationships so high-level influencers come to you. These are advanced strategies for making friends with gatekeepers like the publisher of Penguin Books. A single connection like that can open the doors to a flood of amazing guests. In Module 5, you'll create your podcast pilot. Now that you've laid the groundwork, it's time to crank out that very first show. Here, you'll get the interview prep template I use to get ready for my shows. So you'll know exactly what to ask and when. This will keep the conversation compelling while helping your guests feel comfortable opening up to you. You'll even see the exact prep forms I used for my interviews with Tim Ferriss, Dorian Yates, and Graham Hancock. You can follow them and set yourself up for a great show before you even see your guests. Then, you'll see how to rock your interview with my 3-step process for creating an environment where guests trust you and feel safe, so they're willing to share their deepest fears, struggles, and dreams with you. Next, you'll learn the secrets of minimalist production, so you can create a high-quality show without wasting time or a small fortune on edits. In Module 6, you'll learn advanced London Reel broadcast secrets. This is my favorite. It's where you learn the trade secrets for outstanding content that'll set you apart and help you win a loyal following. You'll learn how to open, lead, and close a conversation, and how to use signature questions so your show stands out and sticks in people's minds. You'll discover how to create your own interview ritual so you get in the zone and nail your podcast from the moment you sit down. And we break down the 10 styles of great interviewers so you can blend the best of others with your personal flavor and create a fascinating show where your voice and personality shine through. In Module 7, you'll promote your podcast. This shows you the best ways to get your show in front of a massive audience as fast as possible. You'll get the London Reel pre-launch strategy guide. This shows you the only 3 things you need to focus on for building your tribe, so you can ignore the shiny tactics like SEO and Instagram that seems important but are actually huge time wasters. You'll learn how to leverage other people's audiences to grow your show and get a word-for-word email template for landing great guests on other popular podcasts. And you'll get the podcast marketing blueprint, so you can continually build awareness and anticipation for your shows in just 15 minutes a day. Finally, there's Module 8, Launch Your Podcast. You'll learn how to rapidly build an audience using the surround sound strategy and get traction immediately through pre-existing communities. To make it easy, you'll even get done-for-you emails you can use to spread the word and attract listeners. Then, you'll build a 12-month success roadmap so you know where you're going and the exact metrics you need to make your show a success. And you'll discover how to deal with critics, naysayers, and haters so you can brush them off and even win them over without missing a beat. Once you join, you'll get 1 module a week for 8 weeks. You'll have access to the material for life, so if you ever fall behind or want a refresher, you can go back to it anytime. And that's not all. We've created a 3-part accountability program to keep you moving forward no matter what. Here's what's included in that. First, we have 2 1-hour calls a week for 8 weeks. That's 16 hours of direct accountability. I'll get on the video call with you and the rest of the Broadcast Yourself community every Tuesday night and Sunday night throughout the course. There, I'll help you through that week's material and make sure you're not falling behind. All the calls are recorded, so if you can't make one, it's no problem. You can catch up the next day. You'll also have your own mini mastermind groups during that time. These are small groups led by one of my hand-selected podcast coaches. They're a great place to ask questions and get feedback. They'll also hold your feet to the fire and make sure you get stuff done. After the 8 weeks is through, you'll continue with monthly mastermind calls with your small group for the next year, so you can support each other through your entire journey. Second, you get access to our private Broadcast Yourself Facebook group. Here, you'll post your progress and connect with the rest of the class so you can stay inspired and continue to be held accountable. You'll also have the chance to pitch ideas, network, and reach out to me, my team, and the community for extra guidance and support. We'll be there for your entire journey, well after the 8 weeks is over. Third, you'll get a dedicated email address with 24-hour turnaround response time. Consider this your bat line. Anytime you feel yourself losing traction, hit us up. My team and I will make sure you get through any hurdles or obstacles that threaten your success in the program. Now, this course isn't for everyone. So before we go any further, let's make sure this is actually for you. This is not for anyone looking to get rich quick. Podcasting is a marathon, not a sprint. If all you want is money, you've missed the deeper reasons for doing this. It's also not for you if you expect to get results without actually doing the work. This program will push you. If you're not willing to take action steps we lay out, don't bother joining us. Now, this course is for you if you want to have a podcast but don't know where to start. It'll ensure you move in the right direction starting from day one. It's also for you if you're looking to find your purpose, express yourself, and make a positive impact on people's lives. Finally, it's for you if you have a business and want to give value back to your industry, while at the same time attract fresh leads who turn to you when it's time to buy. Now, you don't have to decide today if Broadcast Yourself is right for you, because it comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. You can try the entire program out risk-free for 2 months. You see, I believe in this course so much, I am offering a full 100% money-back guarantee if you complete all of the coursework and attend all of the live calls over the 8-week period. After that, if for any reason you are not totally satisfied, you have 60 days to ask for a full refund. The reason for this is simple. At London Real, we're known for producing high-quality videos and programs. Our reputation is everything. We can't afford to have dissatisfied customers, so if you're not 100% thrilled, return it for a full refund. Now, you do have other options for creating a successful, world-class podcast from scratch. For example, you could hire a producer to do the tech and admin work. A good one will charge $500 for a 30-minute consultation, which means you could easily spend $10,000 in your first few months. Aside from that, you could do it yourself, like I did, and wait years before anybody listens, and 4 or 5 more years before you make a dime. Or you can take the express route. You can create a high-quality podcast from scratch, following the path that's already laid out for you, as my staff and I walk you through every step of the process. Plus, get support from a community of driven podcasters that have your back every step of the way. If you're ready to get started, you can have the entire course today for $2,997. And if money is tight, you can spread that over 12 months, meaning you can get started today for only $297. If I could have paid $297 a month for 12 months to cut 6 years off my learning curve, I would have done it in a heartbeat. Now, enrollment will be closing soon. Once it does, I won't reopen the program until next year, because my goal is to make sure everyone who joins is a Broadcast Yourself success story. So I'll be heavily focused on my students and working closely with them. So if you ever thought about having your own podcast, now is the time. Before you decide though, I have 2 more gifts for you. These are valued at over $1,300, but you can have them free if you join today and choose the Invest in Full option. The first is a training on how to turn your podcast into a hit YouTube show. This takes you behind the scenes on how to create stellar YouTube interviews. It has the most important lessons we learned over the 6 years boiled down into one powerful training. You'll learn the 5 ways to maximize your YouTube presence in minimum time, so you can get your videos in front of as many people as possible. You'll learn how to make a podcast go viral, with breakdowns on how we got over 1 million views on a single video. Plus, get the tools we use to hack YouTube SEO so you can reach out to the right audience. Second, you'll get an in-depth training on how to transform your podcast into a profitable business. We'll break down the 6 revenue streams available to you and how to pursue them, and give you the complete business success blueprint, which breaks down our exact path from no revenue to a 7-figure business, so you can follow it and do the same. This training helps turn listeners into leads and transforms your hobby into a profitable side business. If you're still on the fence about joining, let me ask you something. When you look back on the past few years, how do you feel? Are you proud of what you accomplished and the person you've become? Or do you feel like you've been playing smaller than you are? Like you're sitting on a spring of untapped potential? What if nothing changes? What if the way you spend today is more or less the same day you have for the next 6 years, or 10 years, or 20 years? Would you look back with pride, knowing you left it all on the field and lived a full life? Or would you feel like you're missing out on something? That you somehow became, in the words of Theodore Roosevelt, one of those cold, timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat? Because you chose to stay on the sidelines where it was safe, instead of climbing into the arena with the rest of the gladiators willing to put themselves out there. If you're ready to find your passion, connect with high-level influencers, and impact thousands around the world, then join me inside. Click the button below right now and let's get started. I'll be right there in your corner every step of the way. I'll see you on the inside.